The emergence of the Medes as a distinct people begins with the broader movement of Indo-European-speaking populations across the Iranian plateau during the 2nd millennium BC. Archaeological evidence suggests that waves of Iranian-speaking tribes began filtering into the Zagros Mountains region around 1500 BC, gradually displacing or assimilating with existing populations who had inhabited these mountainous territories for millennia. These migrations were not sudden invasions, but rather extended processes of movement, settlement, and cultural adaptation that unfolded over several centuries. The Iranian peoples who would eventually coalesce into the Median Confederation arrived in the Zagros region carrying with them a pastoral nomadic lifestyle that had been refined across the steppes of Central Asia. Unlike the sedentary agricultural communities they encountered, these newcomers maintained a mobile existence centered around livestock herding, particularly cattle, sheep, and horses. Their material culture reflected this mobility: portable bronze implements, distinctive pottery styles, and weapons designed for both hunting and warfare from horseback. The archaeological record from this period reveals a gradual transformation as these nomadic groups began establishing more permanent settlements while retaining many aspects of their traditional way of life. The Zagros Mountains provided an ideal environment for these Iranian settlers. The region's complex topography, with its numerous valleys, high plateaus, and natural passes, offered both protection from external threats and excellent grazing grounds for their livestock. The mountain's elevation created distinct microclimates that supported different types of vegetation at various altitudes, allowing herders to practice transhumance, moving their animals seasonally between summer pastures in the high mountains and winter quarters in the lower valleys. This adaptation to the Zagros environment would become a defining characteristic of early Median society. Archaeological investigations at key sites have provided crucial insights into the material culture and settlement patterns of these Proto-Median groups. Tepe Nushi Jan, located in the Malaya Valley of western Iran, stands as one of the most significant archaeological windows into early Median civilization. Excavations at this site have revealed a complex sequence of occupation levels dating from approximately 1350 to 600 BC, documenting the transition from simple pastoral settlements to sophisticated urban centres. The earliest levels at Tepe-Nush-e-Jan show evidence of small-scale habitation with modest mud brick structures, handmade pottery and bronze implements that reflect the material culture of incoming Iranian peoples. The pottery assemblages from these early levels display distinctive characteristics that archaeologists associate with Iranian cultural traditions. The ceramics feature geometric patterns, including triangular designs and hatched motifs, executed in red and black pigments on buff-coloured clay. These decorative schemes differ markedly from the pottery traditions of earlier inhabitants of the region, suggesting the arrival of populations with distinct cultural practices. The pottery was primarily handmade during the earliest periods, indicating a level of technological simplicity consistent with mobile pastoral communities. Godin Tepe, another crucial archaeological site located in the Kangavar Valley, provides additional evidence for early Median settlement patterns. The site's Period 3 levels, dating to approximately 1400 to 1100 BC, reveal a fortified settlement with substantial architecture that suggests increasing social complexity among the Iranian inhabitants. The excavations uncovered large columned halls constructed with stone foundations and mud brick superstructures, indicating both architectural sophistication and the availability of organised labour for construction projects. These buildings contained numerous storage facilities, suggesting the accumulation of agricultural surplus and the development of more complex economic systems. The material assemblage from Godin Tepe includes bronze weapons, horse bits, and other equestrian equipment that underscore the continued importance of horses in the culture of these Iranian settlers. The presence of specialised horse gear indicates not only the maintenance of pastoral traditions, but also the development of cavalry warfare techniques that would later become characteristic of Median military organisation. Iron objects begin appearing in the archaeological record at Göbekli Tepe around 1100 BC, marking the transition to Iron Age technology among these proto-Median populations. The tribal organisation of early Median society reflected patterns common among Indo-European pastoral peoples. Archaeological evidence suggests that these communities were organised around kinship groups that controlled specific territories and maintained distinct identities, while participating in larger confederations for mutual defence and seasonal migrations. Settlement patterns indicate that individual tribes established clusters of related sites within particular valleys or mountain ranges, creating territorial boundaries that would persist for centuries. The pastoral nomadic lifestyle of proto-Median groups involved complex seasonal movements that maximised the utilisation of available grazing resources while maintaining social cohesion within tribal units. During summer months, herders would move their animals to high mountain pastures, establishing temporary camps at elevations exceeding 2,000 metres above sea level. These summer settlements consisted of portable structures, probably felt tents similar to those used by later nomadic peoples, that could be quickly assembled and disassembled as herding requirements dictated. Winter settlements were more substantial, typically located in protected valleys where animals could find shelter from harsh mountain weather. Archaeological evidence suggests that these winter quarters gradually evolved into permanent settlements as populations grew and agricultural activities expanded. The transition from purely nomadic to semi-sedentary lifestyles appears to have accelerated during the 12th and 11th centuries BC, as evidenced by the construction of more substantial architecture and the development of storage facilities for agricultural products. The economic foundation of early Median society rested on a combination of animal husbandry, limited agriculture, and craft production. Cattle, sheep, and goats provided the primary sources of protein, while horses served both as transportation and as symbols of wealth and status. The importance of horses in Median culture cannot be overstated. These animals represented not only practical utility, but also social prestige and military capability. Archaeological finds of elaborate horse burials and sophisticated equestrian equipment demonstrate the central role these animals played in Median society. Agricultural activities among proto-Median groups were initially limited and seasonal, focused primarily on the cultivation of barley and wheat in valley bottoms where irrigation was possible. The development of agricultural techniques appears to have been gradual, with pastoral activities remaining dominant throughout the early settlement period. However, the archaeological record shows increasing evidence of grain storage facilities and agricultural tools, indicating the growing importance of farming in the Median economy. Craft production among early Median communities encompassed metalworking, pottery manufacture, and textile production. Bronze working reached sophisticated levels, with artisans producing weapons, tools, and decorative objects that display both technical skill and artistic sensibility. The transition to iron technology occurred gradually, with iron objects initially serving specialized functions before eventually replacing bronze for most practical applications. Pottery production evolved from simple handmade vessels to more sophisticated wheel-thrown ceramics, reflecting increasing specialization and technical advancement. The linguistic development of the Median language during this period represents a crucial aspect of cultural formation. As part of the Iranian branch of the Indo-European language family, early Median shared common roots with other Iranian languages, while developing distinct characteristics through contact with local populations and geographic isolation. The Median language belonged to the northwestern Iranian group, closely related to other languages spoken across the Iranian plateau but maintaining unique phonological and lexical features. Old Iranian dialects that preceded Classical Median preserved many archaic Indo-European features, while incorporating loanwords from the languages of indigenous populations encountered during the settlement process. The linguistic evidence, though limited due to the scarcity of early written records, suggests that Median developed as a distinct language through the gradual divergence from common Iranian roots, combined with substrate influences from pre-Iranian languages of the Zagros region. The process of language formation occurred alongside the development of distinct cultural practices that would characterize Median civilization. Religious beliefs, social customs, and material culture all evolved through the interaction between Iranian traditions and local influences, creating a unique cultural synthesis that distinguished the Medes from other Iranian peoples. This cultural development was facilitated by the geographic isolation provided by the Zagros Mountains, which allowed Median society to develop distinctive characteristics while maintaining connections with the broader Iranian cultural sphere. The social structure of Proto-Median society reflected the hierarchical organization typical of Indo-European pastoral peoples. Archaeological evidence suggests the existence of social stratification based on wealth, kinship, and military prowess. Elite burials containing weapons, horse gear, and precious objects indicate the presence of warrior aristocracies who controlled tribal territories and led military expeditions. These elite groups likely served as the foundation for the later development of Median nobility and royal dynasties. Religious practices among early Median populations combined Iranian traditions with local elements, creating syncretic belief systems that would influence later Median religious development. Archaeological evidence includes fire altars, ritual deposits, and ceremonial architecture that suggests the practice of fire worship and other religious ceremonies associated with Iranian religious traditions. The construction of specialized religious buildings at sites like Tepe Nushid Yan indicates the increasing importance of organized religious activities in Median society. The transformation of scattered Iranian settlements into recognizable Median tribal confederations coincided with the expansion of Assyrian power westward from Mesopotamia during the 9th century BC. The first documented references to Median peoples appear in Assyrian royal annals from this period, marking the beginning of recorded Median history and their entry onto the stage of ancient Near Eastern politics. These initial encounters between Assyrian forces and Median tribes established patterns of conflict and diplomacy that would define their relationship for the next 2 centuries. Assyrian scribes meticulously recorded tribute payments and military campaigns in cuneiform tablets that provide our earliest written evidence for Median political organization. The Assyrian term Madiah first appears in royal inscriptions from the reign of Shalmaneser III, referring to both the people and their territories in the Zagros Mountains. These records indicate that by the mid-9th century BC, Median tribes had developed sufficient political cohesion to engage in diplomatic relations with major powers, suggesting the emergence of recognized leadership structures and territorial boundaries among the various tribal groups. The tribute lists from Assyrian archives reveal the material wealth and economic foundations of early Median society. Recorded payments included horses, cattle, sheep, precious metals and textiles, reflecting an economy based on animal husbandry and craft production. The consistent emphasis on horses in these tribute records underscores their continued importance in Median culture and their value to Assyrian military forces, who recognized the superior quality of Zagros mountain horses for cavalry operations. These tribute relationships, while imposed through military pressure, also facilitated cultural and technological exchange between Mesopotamian and Iranian civilizations. Archaeological evidence from the 9th century BC demonstrates increasing sophistication in Median material culture, with the appearance of distinctive pottery styles, improved metallurgical techniques, and more complex architectural forms. Sites throughout the Zagros region show evidence of population growth and settlement consolidation during this period, suggesting that external pressure from Assyrian expansion catalyzed internal political development among Median tribes. the need to organise effective resistance against Assyrian military campaigns encouraged the formation of larger political units and more centralised leadership structures. The 6 major Median tribes identified in later classical sources had emerged as distinct political entities by the 8th century BC. The Busair controlled territories in the northern Zagros, particularly around the modern Hamadan region, where their settlements commanded strategic mountain passes connecting the Iranian plateau with Mesopotamian lowlands. Archaeological investigations in this area have revealed substantial fortified sites with evidence of metalworking, horse breeding and agricultural production that supported dense populations capable of fielding significant military forces. The Parataseni occupied the central Zagros Mountains, establishing their primary settlements in the valleys around modern Kermanshah and Kangavar. This tribe appears to have specialised in horse breeding and training, developing techniques that produce cavalry mounts renowned throughout the ancient world. Excavations at sites associated with Parataseni settlements have uncovered elaborate horse burials, sophisticated bridles and harness equipment, and training facilities that demonstrate their expertise in equestrian arts. Their geographic position allowed them to control important trade routes connecting the Iranian plateau with Mesopotamia, providing substantial economic advantages that funded military expansion and political development. The Strucates inhabited the eastern margins of Median territory, where the Zagros Mountains transition into the Iranian plateau proper. This tribe maintained closer connections with nomadic groups on the plateau while participating in the broader Median Confederation. Their settlements show evidence of seasonal occupation patterns that reflect continued semi-nomadic practices, with permanent winter quarters in protected valleys and temporary summer camps in high mountain pastures. The Strucates served as intermediaries between fully sedentary Median tribes and nomadic Iranian peoples, facilitating trade and cultural exchange across the region. The Arizanti controlled territories in the southern Zagros, where they developed sophisticated agricultural systems that supported urban centres of considerable size. This tribe appears to have been among the first Median groups to adopt fully sedentary lifestyles, constructing permanent settlements with substantial architecture and complex irrigation systems. Archaeological evidence from Arizanti territories includes large storage facilities, workshops for craft production, and administrative buildings that suggest advanced political organisation. The agricultural surplus supported specialist craftsmen and professional warriors, contributing to the military capabilities of the broader Median Confederation. The Budi occupied strategic territories in the western Zagros, where they maintained direct contact with Mesopotamian civilizations. This position exposed them to advanced technologies and administrative practices that they adapted for use within Median society. Budi settlements show evidence of writing systems, architectural techniques, and craft traditions borrowed from Mesopotamian sources, but modified to suit local conditions and cultural preferences. Their role as cultural intermediaries made them influential within Median political councils and essential for diplomatic relations with external powers. The Magi represented a unique element within Median tribal structure, functioning as a priestly caste rather than a territorial tribe. This group maintained religious traditions and ritual practices that provided cultural unity across the diverse Median Confederation. Archaeological evidence suggests that Magi communities established religious centres at strategic locations throughout Median territory, where they conducted ceremonies, maintained sacred fires, and provided spiritual guidance to tribal leaders. Their influence extended beyond religious matters into political and military affairs, as their approval legitimized leadership decisions and their opposition could undermine tribal unity. The first major Assyrian military campaign against Median territories occurred during the reign of Shalmaneser III, who launched expeditions into the Zagros Mountains around 836 BC. Assyrian records describe encounters with numerous Median chieftains who controlled fortified settlements and commanded substantial military forces. These campaigns revealed the extent of Median political development, as Assyrian forces encountered organized resistance coordinated across multiple tribal territories. The Median response to Assyrian invasion demonstrated sophisticated military planning and the ability to mobilize resources from diverse tribal groups for common defense. Shalmaneser's forces encountered Median settlements protected by stone walls, defensive ditches, and elevated positions that maximized natural advantages provided by mountainous terrain. The Assyrian accounts describe fierce resistance from Median warriors who employed cavalry tactics, archery, and guerrilla warfare techniques adapted to mountain conditions. These encounters forced Assyrian commanders to modify their traditional siege warfare methods and develop new strategies for mountain combat. The difficulty of these campaigns impressed Assyrian military leaders and contributed to their respect for Median military capabilities. The tribute extracted from Median tribes following Shalmaneser's campaigns included substantial quantities of horses, indicating the scale of Median horse breeding operations and their importance to Assyrian military forces. The recorded numbers suggest that individual Median tribes could provide hundreds of trained cavalry mounts, demonstrating the sophistication of their animal husbandry practices and the wealth generated by horse trading. This tribute relationship, while burdensome for Median communities, also provided them with access to Mesopotamian luxury goods, technologies, and cultural innovations that enhanced their own development. Tiglath-Pileser III launched more systematic campaigns against Median territories, establishing a pattern of regular military expeditions designed to maintain Assyrian dominance over the Zagros region. His forces penetrated deeper into Median territory than previous campaigns, encountering more sophisticated political organizations and military resistance. The Assyrian records from this period provide detailed descriptions of Median settlements, political structures, and military capabilities that reveal the extent of their development during the 8th century BC. The campaigns of Tiglath-Pileser III encountered Median confederations that could coordinate military responses across multiple tribal territories. These coordinated defences required advanced communication systems, standardised military equipment, and unified command structures that indicate significant political development among Median tribes. The Assyrian accounts describe battles against Median forces numbering in the thousands, suggesting population densities and military organisation capabilities that rivaled those of established Near Eastern kingdoms. Archaeological evidence from sites attacked during Tiglath-Pileser's campaigns shows destruction layers containing Assyrian weapons and equipment alongside Median defensive preparations. These archaeological contexts reveal the intensity of the conflicts and the technological sophistication of both sides. Median defensive installations included multiple lines of fortification, underground storage facilities, and water supply systems designed to withstand extended sieges. The discovery of large quantities of arrowheads, spear points, and other weapons indicates the scale of military preparations undertaken by Median communities facing Assyrian invasion. Sargon II conducted the most extensive Assyrian campaigns against Median territories, penetrating deep into the Zagros Mountains and establishing temporary Assyrian administrative centres in conquered regions. His military records provide the most detailed contemporary accounts of Median political organisation, describing encounters with numerous tribal leaders who controlled substantial territories and commanded professional military forces. These campaigns revealed the extent of Median territorial control, which extended across much of the central and northern Zagros Mountains. The military innovations developed during Sargon's campaigns against the Medes influenced Assyrian tactical doctrine and equipment design. Assyrian forces adapted their traditional heavy infantry formations to mountain warfare conditions, developing lighter equipment and more flexible tactical formations. The challenges of fighting in mountainous terrain against mobile cavalry forces led to improvements in Assyrian archery techniques and the development of specialized mountain warfare units. These adaptations reflected the effectiveness of Median military resistance and their mastery of mountain combat tactics. The tribute records from Sargon's campaigns reveal the increasing wealth and sophistication of Median society. The recorded payments included worked metal objects, textiles, and luxury goods that demonstrate advanced craft production capabilities. The quality and quantity of tribute items suggest that Median communities had developed specialized manufacturing centers and trade networks that connected them with distant markets. This economic development provided the foundation for the military capabilities that enabled effective resistance against Assyrian expansion. The development of fortified settlements accelerated dramatically during this period of Assyrian pressure. Archaeological surveys throughout Median territories reveal the construction of numerous hilltop fortresses, walled towns, and defensive installations designed to protect against military invasion. These fortifications employed sophisticated engineering techniques, including multiple defensive lines, concealed entrances, and integrated water supply systems. The scale and complexity of these defensive works indicate coordinated planning and substantial labor mobilization capabilities among Median tribal confederations. The fortified settlement at Tepe Nush-i-Jan exemplifies the architectural sophistication achieved by Median communities during this period. The site's defensive walls incorporated advanced masonry techniques, with carefully fitted stone blocks forming foundations for mud brick superstructures. The settlement's layout optimized defensive capabilities while providing space for substantial populations and their livestock. Internal features included large storage facilities, workshops, and residential areas that supported diverse economic activities while maintaining defensive readiness. Political confederations among Median chieftains evolved rapidly in response to external military pressure and internal population growth. The need to coordinate military responses against Assyrian campaigns encouraged the development of intertribal alliances and unified command structures. Archaeological evidence suggests that these confederations involved formal agreements regarding territorial boundaries, military obligations, and tribute-sharing arrangements. The emergence of standardized weights, measures, and pottery styles across Median territories indicates increasing political and economic integration among previously independent tribal groups. The leadership structures that emerged during this period combine traditional tribal authority with new administrative requirements created by confederation politics. Median chieftains maintained their roles as tribal leaders while participating in broader political councils that coordinated multi-tribal activities. This dual system of governance allowed for flexibility in local affairs while providing unified direction for matters affecting the entire confederation. The success of this political model in organizing effective resistance against Assyrian expansion demonstrated its practical advantages and contributed to its persistence throughout Median history. The consolidation of Median tribal confederations into a unified kingdom represents one of the most significant political transformations in ancient Iranian history. According to Herodotus, writing nearly 2 centuries after the events he describes, this unification occurred under the leadership of Cyaxares, a figure whose historical reality remains debated among modern scholars, but whose legendary status as the founder of Median unity has profoundly influenced our understanding of early Iranian state formation. The Greek historian's account, preserved in his histories, provides the most detailed narrative of Median political development during the 7th century BC, though his sources and methodology raise important questions about the reliability of specific details. Herodotus presents Cyaxares as a village judge whose reputation for fairness and wisdom gradually attracted disputants from across Median territories. The historian describes how this local magistrate's growing influence created a power vacuum when he withdrew from public life, forcing Median communities to confront the chaos that ensued without his arbitration services. This narrative framework, while potentially reflecting genuine historical processes of political consolidation, bears the hallmarks of Greek political theory regarding the origins of kingship and may represent Herodotus's attempt to explain Median state formation using familiar Hellenic concepts. The account describes Median tribal leaders gathering to address the crisis created by Deioces' withdrawal from public affairs. According to Herodotus, these chieftains recognized that their communities required unified leadership to maintain order and coordinate responses to external threats. The decision to elect Deioces as their first king allegedly emerged from this council, with the understanding that royal authority would provide the institutional framework necessary for effective governance across diverse tribal territories. This constitutional monarchy model, as described by Herodotus, established precedents for royal succession and administrative organisation that would characterise Median political structure throughout its existence. The selection of Deioces as king, according to this narrative, involved formal ceremonies that legitimised his authority and established the symbolic foundations of Median royal power. Herodotus describes elaborate rituals that combine traditional Iranian customs with new ceremonial elements designed to distinguish royal authority from tribal leadership. These ceremonies allegedly included the construction of a royal palace, the establishment of court protocols, and the creation of administrative positions that would support centralized governance. The historical accuracy of these specific details remains questionable, but the underlying process of political institutionalization reflects broader patterns observed in other ancient Near Eastern societies during similar periods of state formation. The construction of Ecbatana as the Median capital represents the most tangible achievement attributed to Deioces' reign. Modern archaeological investigations at Hamadan, the site traditionally identified with ancient Ecbatana, have revealed evidence of substantial urban development during the 7th century BC, though the specific attribution of these remains to Deioces' building program cannot be definitively established. The scale and sophistication of the architectural remains suggests that Median rulers commanded significant resources and labour forces capable of major construction projects during this period. Herodotus provides a detailed description of Ecbatana's defensive architecture, claiming that the city featured 7 concentric walls of increasing height, each painted in different colours to create a visually striking appearance. The innermost walls allegedly enclosed the royal palace and treasury, while outer defensive lines protected residential areas and commercial districts. This architectural arrangement, according to the Greek historian, served both practical defensive purposes and symbolic functions that emphasized the king's elevated status above his subjects. The colour scheme described by Herodotus, white, black, scarlet, blue, orange, silver and gold for the successive walls, may reflect actual Median architectural practices or represent symbolic interpretations added by later sources. Archaeological investigations at Hamadan have uncovered substantial stone foundations and defensive installations that confirm the existence of major fortifications during the Median period. These remains include massive stone walls constructed using sophisticated masonry techniques, with carefully fitted blocks creating defensive barriers several meters thick. The engineering quality of these fortifications demonstrates advanced architectural knowledge and the availability of skilled craftsmen capable of executing complex construction projects. The scale of the defensive work suggests that Ecbatana served as a major population centre, requiring substantial protection against military threats. The urban layout revealed through archaeological survey indicates that Ecbatana functioned as more than a simple fortress. Excavations have uncovered residential areas, workshop districts, and storage facilities that supported a diverse urban population engaged in various economic activities. The presence of specialized craft production areas, including metalworking installations and pottery workshops, suggests that the city served as a major economic centre that attracted artisans and merchants from throughout the region. Water supply systems, including sophisticated channels and storage reservoirs, demonstrate the infrastructure development necessary to support large urban populations in the semi-arid environment of the Hamadan Plain. The establishment of royal protocol and court ceremonies under Deioces, as described by Herodotus, created institutional frameworks that distinguished Median kingship from traditional tribal leadership. The Greek historian claims that Deioces instituted elaborate court rituals that limited direct access to the king and emphasized his elevated status through ceremonial protocols. These innovations allegedly included the requirement that all communications with the king occur through written petitions processed by court officials, the establishment of specific times and procedures for royal audiences, and the creation of ceremonial positions that manage court activities. The administrative systems attributed to Deioces' reign involved the creation of bureaucratic structures that could manage the complex requirements of governing diverse tribal territories from a central location. According to Herodotus, this administrative apparatus included the appointment of governors to oversee regional territories, the establishment of communication networks that connected the capital with distant provinces, and the development of taxation systems that could extract resources from subject populations. These institutional innovations, while potentially reflecting actual Median administrative practices, may also represent later developments that Herodotus or his sources projected backward onto the reign of the legendary founder. The development of centralized taxation systems required sophisticated record-keeping capabilities and standardized measurement systems that could ensure consistent collection procedures across diverse territories. Archaeological evidence from Median sites includes numerous examples of standardized weights and measures that suggest the implementation of unified commercial standards during this period. The discovery of administrative seals and impression techniques indicates that Median bureaucrats employed formal documentation procedures for recording transactions and maintaining official records. These administrative innovations provided the foundation for the complex governmental systems that would characterize later Median and Persian imperial administration. The military reforms associated with Deioces' unification efforts involved the transformation of tribal warbands into organized royal armies capable of coordinated operations across large territories. This military reorganization required the development of standardized equipment, training procedures, and command structures that could integrate warriors from different tribal backgrounds into effective fighting forces. Archaeological evidence from Median military sites includes large quantities of standardized weapons and armor that suggest centralized production and distribution systems for military equipment. The creation of royal bodyguard units and professional military forces loyal to the king rather than tribal leaders represented a crucial innovation in Median political development. These professional warriors provided the monarchy with military capabilities independent of tribal militias, enabling royal authority to operate effectively even when tribal loyalties were divided. The maintenance of professional military forces required substantial resources and administrative capabilities that demonstrated the growing sophistication of Median governmental institutions. Critical analysis of Herodotus' account reveals significant problems that complicate efforts to reconstruct the historical reality of early Median kingship. The Greek historian's sources for Median history remain unclear, and his narrative contains elements that appear to reflect Greek political theory rather than authentic Iranian historical traditions. The constitutional monarchy model he describes, with its emphasis on elected kingship and formal governmental institutions, corresponds more closely to Greek political concepts than to documented patterns of ancient Iranian political organization. Archaeological evidence provides a more complex picture of Median political development that differs significantly from Herodotus' linear narrative of unification under a single founding monarch. Excavations throughout Median territories reveal gradual processes of urban development, architectural sophistication, and administrative complexity that suggest evolutionary rather than revolutionary political change. The material evidence indicates that Median state formation involved multiple centers of political authority that gradually coalesced into larger confederations rather than sudden unification under a single ruler. The chronological framework provided by Herodotus for Deioces' reign and the subsequent development of Median kingship also presents difficulties when compared with other ancient sources and archaeological evidence. Assyrian records from the 7th century BC continue to describe encounters with multiple Median chieftains and tribal confederations, rather than a unified Median kingdom, suggesting that political consolidation occurred more gradually than Herodotus' account implies. The persistence of tribal identities and regional variations in material culture throughout the supposed period of unified Median rule indicates that centralization remained incomplete even during the height of Median power. The relationship between archaeological evidence and literary sources becomes particularly complex when examining the specific claims about Ecbatana's construction and architectural features. While excavations at Hamadan confirm substantial urban development during the Median period, the specific architectural details described by Herodotus cannot be verified through archaeological investigation. The seven-walled city with its elaborate colour scheme may represent symbolic or mythological elements added to the historical tradition rather than accurate descriptions of actual architectural features. Comparative analysis with other ancient Near Eastern examples of state formation suggests that the processes described by Herodotus, while potentially containing historical elements, follow patterns common to foundation legends throughout the ancient world. The figure of the wise judge who becomes king appears in various cultural contexts and may represent a literary motif, rather than specific historical memory. The emphasis on constitutional procedures and formal governmental institutions reflects concerns that were prominent in Greek political discourse during Herodotus' lifetime, rather than necessarily representing authentic Median political traditions. The economic foundations necessary to support the governmental innovations attributed to Deioces' reign required substantial agricultural surplus and trade revenues that archaeological evidence suggests developed gradually rather than suddenly. The construction of major urban centres, the maintenance of professional military forces, and the operation of complex administrative systems all demanded resources that would have accumulated over extended periods, rather than becoming available immediately upon political unification. This economic reality suggests that Median state formation involved longer developmental processes than the rapid transformation described in Herodotus' narrative. The death of Deioces around 647 BC marked the end of the foundational period of Median unification and the beginning of an era characterized by aggressive territorial expansion and direct military confrontation with Assyrian imperial forces. His son Phraortes inherited a consolidated kingdom that possessed the administrative infrastructure and military capabilities necessary for sustained campaigns beyond traditional Median territories. Unlike his father's reign, which focused primarily on internal consolidation and defensive preparations, Phraortes pursued an expansionist agenda that transformed the Medes from a regional confederation into a major power capable of challenging Assyrian dominance across the Iranian plateau. The transition of power from Deioces to Phraortes appears to have occurred without significant internal disruption, suggesting that the institutional frameworks established during the unification period had created stable succession procedures. Archaeological evidence from Ecbatana indicates continued construction and urban development during the early years of Phraortes' reign, with new residential districts and workshop areas expanding the city's capacity to support larger populations and more complex economic activities. The material remains from this period show increasing standardization in pottery styles, metalwork techniques, and architectural features across Median territories, indicating the continued integration of diverse tribal groups under centralized royal authority. Phraortes' military campaigns began with systematic efforts to extend Median control over Iranian tribes that had remained independent during his father's unification efforts. These initial expeditions targeted pastoral communities in the eastern Zagros Mountains and the western edges of the Iranian plateau, where scattered tribal groups maintained traditional lifestyles while avoiding incorporation into larger political structures. The Median king's forces employed cavalry-based tactics that proved highly effective against these mobile opponents, using superior numbers and coordinated maneuvers to overwhelm isolated tribal warbands. The military organization developed under Phraortes represented a significant evolution from the defensive forces assembled by his father. Archaeological evidence from military installations constructed during this period reveals the standardization of weapons production and the establishment of specialized training facilities for cavalry units. Excavations at sites associated with Median military camps have uncovered large quantities of iron spear points, arrowheads, and sword blades that display consistent manufacturing techniques and quality standards. These weapons show clear influences from Assyrian military technology, while incorporating design modifications adapted to Median fighting preferences and tactical requirements. The development of Median cavalry warfare reached new levels of sophistication during Phraortes' campaigns. The king's forces perfected techniques for coordinated cavalry charges that could break enemy formations while maintaining sufficient mobility to avoid counterattacks. Median horsemen employed composite bows that provided superior range and penetrating power, compared to simple wooden bows used by many of their opponents. The archaeological record includes numerous examples of these advanced bow designs, with bone and horn reinforcements that increased draw weight and arrow velocity while maintaining durability under battlefield conditions. Phraortes' expansion eastward brought Median forces into contact with Persian tribes inhabiting the Fars region of the Iranian plateau. These encounters mark the beginning of a complex relationship between Medes and Persians that would ultimately reshape the political landscape of ancient Iran. Initial Median campaigns against Persian territories met fierce resistance from tribal confederations led by experienced warriors who understood the strategic importance of maintaining independence from foreign domination. The Persian response to Median expansion involved the formation of defensive alliances among previously independent tribes and the adoption of military innovations that could counter Median cavalry advantages. The siege warfare techniques developed during Phraortes' campaigns demonstrated the technological sophistication achieved by Median military engineers. Archaeological investigations at sites besieged during this period reveal evidence of complex siege works, including earthen ramps, wooden siege towers, and undermining operations designed to breach defensive walls. The Median forces employed battering rams constructed with iron-reinforced heads and mobile protective shelters that allowed assault troops to approach fortified positions while minimizing casualties from defensive archery. These siege techniques represented adaptations of Assyrian military engineering modified to suit the mountainous terrain and fortification styles encountered in Iranian territories. The expansion of Median territory under Phraortes required the development of administrative systems capable of governing diverse populations across vast distances. The archaeological record from newly conquered territories shows evidence of Median administrative installations, including fortified compounds that served as regional headquarters and storage facilities for tribute collection. These administrative centres featured standardized architectural designs that reflected central planning while incorporating local building materials and construction techniques. The presence of Median administrative seals and record-keeping materials at these sites indicates the implementation of bureaucratic procedures for managing provincial affairs. The tribute systems established in conquered territories provided the economic foundation for continued military expansion while integrating subject populations into the broader Median political structure. Archaeological evidence suggests that tribute collection involved both agricultural products and specialized craft goods, with different regions contributing according to their particular economic strengths. Horse breeding territories provided cavalry mounts and breeding stock, while agricultural areas supplied grain and other foodstuffs necessary to support Median military campaigns. Craft-producing communities contributed metalwork, textiles, and luxury goods that enhanced the wealth and prestige of the Median royal court. The confrontation between Median expansion and Assyrian imperial interests intensified as Phraortes' campaigns extended into territories that Assyria considered within its sphere of influence. Assyrian records from this period describe increasing difficulties in maintaining control over tribute payments from Iranian territories as Median military pressure disrupted established collection procedures. The Assyrian response involved the deployment of substantial military forces to the Zagros region, initiating a series of campaigns designed to reassert imperial authority and halt Median territorial expansion. The first major battle between Median and Assyrian forces during Phraortes' reign occurred in the central Zagros mountains, where Median cavalry encountered Assyrian heavy infantry, supported by siege equipment and auxiliary troops. The engagement demonstrated the tactical challenges faced by both armies when operating in mountainous terrain that favoured neither traditional Assyrian siege warfare nor Median cavalry manoeuvres. The battle's outcome remains unclear from available sources, but archaeological evidence suggests that both sides suffered substantial casualties while failing to achieve decisive strategic advantages. Subsequent encounters between Median and Assyrian forces revealed the adaptive capabilities of both military systems as commanders developed new tactics suited to the specific challenges of Zagros warfare. Assyrian forces modified their traditional heavy infantry formations to create more flexible units capable of operating effectively in broken terrain while maintaining defensive cohesion against cavalry attacks. Median commanders responded by developing combined arms tactics that integrated cavalry charges with infantry assaults and archery barrages, designed to exploit weaknesses in modified Assyrian formations. The technological exchange resulting from sustained military contact between Medes and Assyrians accelerated innovations in weapons design and military engineering on both sides. Archaeological evidence from battlefield sites reveals the adoption of Assyrian siege techniques by Median forces, while Assyrian equipment shows influences from Median cavalry warfare innovations. Iron working techniques improved significantly during this period as military demands drove advances in metallurgical processes and weapon manufacturing capabilities. The quality of iron weapons recovered from sites associated with these conflicts demonstrates the high technical standards achieved by both Median and Assyrian armorsmiths. The impact of prolonged warfare on Median society extended beyond military affairs to influence economic production, social organisation, and cultural development. Archaeological evidence from Median settlements during this period shows increased specialisation in military-related crafts, with expanded metalworking facilities and weapons production centres. The demand for military equipment stimulated technological innovation, while the need to supply armies in the field encouraged improvements in agricultural productivity and food preservation techniques. Social stratification appears to have intensified as military success created new opportunities for wealth accumulation and social advancement among successful warriors and military commanders. The development of intelligence networks and communication systems became crucial elements in the sustained conflict between Medes and Assyrians. Both sides established networks of informants and messengers that provided strategic information about enemy movements and intentions. Archaeological evidence includes examples of standardized message containers and sealing techniques that ensured secure communication across long distances. The sophistication of these communication systems reflects the growing complexity of military operations that required coordination among multiple army units operating across extensive territories. The economic strain of continuous military campaigning began to affect both Median and Assyrian capabilities as the conflict extended over multiple years. The costs of maintaining large armies in the field, supplying siege equipment and replacing casualties created significant financial burdens that required increased tribute extraction from subject territories. Archaeological evidence from this period shows signs of economic stress in both Median and Assyrian territories, with reduced construction activity and simplified material culture indicating resource scarcity caused by military expenditures. The climactic phase of Phraortes' confrontation with Assyrian forces occurred during a major campaign that brought Median armies deep into territories under direct Assyrian administrative control. The Median king personally led this expedition, which represented the culmination of his expansionist ambitions and the ultimate test of Median military capabilities against the full strength of Assyrian imperial forces. The campaign involved the siege of several fortified cities and multiple pitched battles that demonstrated the tactical sophistication achieved by both armies through years of continuous warfare. The final Battle of Phraortes' reign took place in circumstances that remain partially obscured by conflicting ancient sources, but archaeological evidence suggests a large-scale engagement involving substantial forces from both sides. The battlefield archaeology reveals evidence of intense fighting, with large quantities of weapons and armour scattered across an extensive area. The distribution of artefacts suggests that the battle involved multiple phases, with cavalry engagements followed by infantry assaults and siege operations against fortified positions. The presence of both Median and Assyrian equipment types indicates that the fighting was prolonged and involved hand-to-hand combat, after initial tactical manoeuvres failed to produce decisive results. The death of Phraortes during this final confrontation marked the end of the most aggressive phase of Median territorial expansion and created an immediate crisis in Median political leadership. The king's death in battle, while demonstrating his personal courage and commitment to Median military objectives, left the kingdom without clear succession arrangements at a crucial moment when Assyrian forces threatened to exploit the leadership vacuum. The immediate aftermath of Phraortes' death saw rapid Median military withdrawal from advanced positions as commanders prioritized the protection of core territories over the maintenance of recent conquests. The impact of Phraortes' death extended beyond immediate military consequences to affect the fundamental structure of Median political organization. The king's aggressive expansion policies had created a military-focused governmental system that depended heavily on continuous successful campaigning to maintain internal cohesion and economic stability. His death disrupted this system at a time when external military pressure from Assyrian forces threatened to reverse the territorial gains achieved during his reign. The challenge facing Median political leadership involved the need to maintain territorial integrity while managing the transition to new royal authority under extremely difficult circumstances. The succession crisis following Phraortes' death in battle created a power vacuum that attracted opportunistic intervention from nomadic Scythian tribes who had been monitoring the prolonged conflict between Medes and Assyrians from their territories north of the Caucasus Mountains. These Iranian-speaking nomads, whose military prowess and mobility had already established their dominance across the Pontic steppes, recognized the strategic opportunity presented by Median political instability and Assyrian military exhaustion. The Scythian intervention represented more than simple raiding activity. It constituted a calculated attempt to establish tributary relationships with sedentary populations while exploiting the temporary weakness of both major regional powers. Archaeological evidence from sites across the Zagros Mountains reveals the material signature of Scythian presence during this period, characterized by distinctive bronze and iron artifacts that reflect the nomadic lifestyle and military preferences of these steppe warriors. Scythian arrowheads, recovered from numerous sites throughout Median territory, display the characteristic three-lobed design that maximized penetrating power while remaining lightweight enough for mounted archery. These projectile points were manufactured using advanced metallurgical techniques that produced consistently sharp edges and durable construction, reflecting the sophisticated weapon-making traditions developed by nomadic peoples who depended entirely on their military equipment for survival and success. The Scythian military advantage rested primarily on their superior mobility and archery skills, which proved devastatingly effective against the more heavily equipped forces employed by sedentary kingdoms. Scythian warriors rode small, hardy horses bred for endurance rather than size, allowing them to cover vast distances rapidly while maintaining tactical flexibility in combat situations. Their composite bows, constructed from horn, wood and sinew, provided exceptional range and accuracy that enabled them to engage enemy forces from distances that prevented effective retaliation. The combination of mobility and ranged firepower allowed relatively small Scythian forces to defeat much larger armies by avoiding direct confrontation while inflicting continuous casualties through hit-and-run tactics. The initial Scythian incursions into Median territory targeted isolated settlements and military installations that could not mount effective resistance against swift cavalry attacks. Archaeological investigations at sites attacked during this period reveal evidence of sudden destruction, with burned buildings containing hastily abandoned personal possessions and stored goods. The pattern of destruction suggests that Scythian raiders focused on seizing portable wealth while avoiding prolonged siege operations that would reduce their tactical mobility. Livestock, metalwork, textiles, and other valuable goods were systematically removed, while architectural features and agricultural installations were typically left intact after being stripped of useful materials. The Median response to Scythian incursions was initially hampered by the leadership transition following Phraortes' death and the need to reorganize military forces that had been scattered during the final confrontation with Assyrian armies. Cyaxares, who emerged as the new Median king during this crisis period, inherited a kingdom whose military capabilities had been severely degraded by years of intensive warfare and whose political unity was threatened by the external pressure from nomadic raiders. The young king's immediate priorities involved consolidating his authority over Median tribal leaders while developing effective countermeasures against Scythian military tactics. The archaeological record from Ecbatana during the early years of Cyaxares' reign shows evidence of hasty defensive preparations designed to protect the capital against potential Scythian attacks. New fortification works included the construction of additional outer walls, the creation of underground storage facilities for protecting valuable goods, and the establishment of watchtower systems that could provide early warning of approaching nomadic forces. These defensive improvements employed sophisticated engineering techniques that maximized the natural advantages provided by the city's elevated position, while creating multiple defensive lines that could channel attacking forces into predetermined killing zones. Contemporary Assyrian records provide valuable insights into the extent and impact of Scythian activities during this period, as Assyrian administrators struggled to maintain control over tribute-paying territories that were simultaneously threatened by nomadic raiders and Median military pressure. Assyrian correspondence describes encounters with Scythian forces operating across a vast area, extending from the Caucasus Mountains to the central Zagros, indicating the scale of nomadic military operations and their impact on regional political stability. The Assyrian accounts emphasize the difficulty of engaging Scythian forces using traditional siege warfare techniques and heavy infantry formations that were designed for confronting sedentary opponents. The duration of Scythian dominance over portions of Median territory remains a subject of scholarly debate, with different ancient sources providing conflicting chronological frameworks for these events. Herodotus claims that Scythian rule lasted for 28 years, while other sources suggest shorter periods of nomadic influence. Archaeological evidence indicates that Scythian presence was geographically limited and concentrated in areas that provided strategic advantages for mobile warfare, particularly river valleys and mountain passes that facilitated rapid movement between different regions. The material remains suggest that Scythian control was never total or systematic, but rather involved the establishment of temporary bases from which raiding expeditions could be launched against surrounding territories. The impact of Scythian presence on Median society appears to have been less transformative than some ancient sources suggest, with archaeological evidence indicating that basic administrative and economic structures remained largely intact throughout the period of nomadic influence. Median settlements show continuity in architectural styles, craft production techniques, and agricultural practices that suggest local populations maintained their traditional lifestyles while adapting to the demands of nomadic overlords. The tribute extracted by Scythian forces consisted primarily of portable wealth and livestock, rather than fundamental changes to social organization or economic systems. The administrative systems established during Dios's reign and expanded under Phraortes demonstrated remarkable resilience during the Scythian interregnum, with local officials continuing to maintain records and collect taxes even while acknowledging nomadic authority. Archaeological evidence from administrative sites includes cuneiform tablets and seal impressions that document ongoing bureaucratic activities throughout the period of Scythian influence. These records indicate that Median administrative personnel adapted their procedures to accommodate nomadic demands while preserving the institutional knowledge necessary for eventual restoration of centralized royal authority. The religious and cultural impact of Scythian presence on Median society was similarly limited, with archaeological evidence suggesting that local populations maintained their traditional practices while incorporating selected elements of nomadic culture. Scythian artistic motifs appear on some Median metalwork and pottery from this period, but these influences represent superficial decorative elements rather than fundamental changes to religious beliefs or cultural values. The persistence of traditional Median fire altars and religious installations indicates that the nomadic interlude did not disrupt the fundamental spiritual practices that provided cultural continuity across tribal boundaries. The technological exchange between Scythians and Medes during this period resulted in significant improvements to Median military capabilities, particularly in areas related to mounted warfare and archery techniques. Archaeological evidence includes examples of improved bow designs that incorporated Scythian construction methods while maintaining Median decorative preferences. Horse breeding practices also benefited from contact with nomadic expertise, with Median horse remains from this period showing genetic influences from steppe breeds that enhance speed and endurance characteristics. These technological transfers would prove crucial for the military reforms that Cyaxares would implement once he consolidated his authority. The gradual consolidation of Cyaxares' power began with diplomatic efforts to secure the loyalty of Median tribal leaders who had maintained semi-autonomous status during the period of Scythian influence. The young king employed a combination of traditional tribal protocols and innovative political arrangements to rebuild the coalition that had supported his father's expansionist policies. Archaeological evidence from tribal territories shows renewed construction activity and the standardization of administrative procedures that indicate the restoration of centralized authority. The process of political consolidation required careful negotiation with tribal chieftains who had gained increased independence during the interregnum period. The military reorganization undertaken by Cyaxares represented a fundamental transformation of Median military doctrine based on lessons learned during the Scythian interregnum and previous conflicts with Assyrian forces. The king recognized that traditional Median military organization, which relied heavily on tribal levies and loosely coordinated cavalry forces, was inadequate for confronting the sophisticated military challenges posed by both nomadic raiders and imperial armies. The new military system emphasized professional training, standardized equipment, and specialized tactical formations that could operate effectively against diverse types of opponents. The creation of specialized infantry units marked a significant departure from previous Median military practice, which had focused primarily on cavalry warfare. These new infantry formations employed standardized weapons and armor that provided enhanced protection while maintaining sufficient mobility for mountain warfare. Archaeological evidence from military installations constructed during this period reveals the production of large quantities of iron spears, shields, and body armour that display consistent manufacturing standards and design specifications. The infantry units were organised into tactical formations that could operate independently or in coordination with cavalry forces depending on battlefield conditions. The development of specialised cavalry units involved the systematic improvement of horse breeding programs and the standardisation of equestrian equipment to create more effective mounted forces. Cyaxares' cavalry reforms incorporated lessons learned from Scythian military practices while maintaining distinctly Median tactical preferences and organisational structures. The new cavalry units employed improved composite bows, standardised lance designs, and enhanced protective equipment that provided superior combat effectiveness while maintaining the mobility advantages that had traditionally characterised Median warfare. Archaeological evidence includes examples of specialised horse armour and riding equipment that demonstrate the sophisticated level of equestrian technology achieved during this period. The establishment of specialised archer units represented another crucial innovation in Cyaxares' military reorganisation, addressing the need for concentrated missile firepower that could counter enemy cavalry attacks and provide support for infantry and cavalry operations. These archer formations employed standardized bow designs and arrow types that maximized range and penetrating power while ensuring consistent performance across different tactical situations. The archaeological record includes large quantities of standardized arrowheads and bow components that indicate mass production techniques designed to equip substantial numbers of specialized archers. Training facilities for these units included practice ranges and specialized targets that allowed for the development of advanced archery skills. The integration of these specialized military units required the development of new command structures and tactical doctrines that could coordinate complex battlefield maneuvers involving different types of forces. Cyaxares' military reforms established professional officer corps trained in the coordination of combined arms operations that maximised the effectiveness of infantry, cavalry, and archer units working in concert. Archaeological evidence from military training sites reveals the construction of specialised facilities for practicing coordinated manoeuvres and the development of standardised signals and communication procedures that enabled effective battlefield coordination. The economic foundation necessary to support these military innovations required significant improvements to Median administrative and productive capabilities. The maintenance of professional military units demanded regular pay, standardized equipment, and specialized training facilities that represented substantial ongoing expenses. Archaeological evidence indicates that Cyaxares' government implemented new taxation systems and tribute collection procedures that could generate the revenues necessary to fund military modernization, while maintaining the civilian infrastructure required for continued economic development. The completion of Cyaxares' military reforms by 615 BC transformed the Median kingdom into a formidable military power capable of challenging Assyrian dominance across the ancient Near East. The king's systematic reorganization of Median armed forces had created a professional military machine that combined the traditional mobility advantages of Iranian cavalry with the disciplined formations and siege warfare capabilities necessary for conquering fortified cities. Archaeological evidence from military installations constructed during the final phase of these reforms reveals the establishment of permanent training camps, standardized weapons, production facilities, and logistical support systems that enabled sustained military campaigns far from Median home territories. The strategic situation in Mesopotamia during this period presented Cyaxares with unprecedented opportunities for territorial expansion and the final resolution of the centuries-long conflict with Assyrian imperial forces. The Assyrian Empire, despite its continued military capabilities and administrative sophistication, faced mounting internal pressures from rebellious subject populations, economic strain from prolonged warfare, and succession disputes that weakened central authority. Babylonia, under the leadership of Nabopolassar, had successfully established independence from Assyrian control and was actively seeking allies for a coordinated assault on the imperial heartland. The convergence of these factors created the conditions for a decisive confrontation that would reshape the political landscape of the ancient Near East. Cyaxares recognized that the destruction of Assyrian power required more than successful military campaigns. It demanded a comprehensive strategy that could simultaneously attack Assyrian territories from multiple directions, while preventing the empire from concentrating its defensive resources. The Median king's diplomatic initiatives toward Babylon represented a calculated effort to coordinate anti-Assyrian activities and ensure that Median military efforts would be supported by simultaneous Babylonian operations against Assyrian positions in southern Mesopotamia. The negotiations between Cyaxares and Nabopolassar involved complex discussions regarding territorial division, military coordination, and post-war political arrangements that would govern relations between the two kingdoms following Assyrian defeat. The formal alliance between Media and Babylon, concluded around 614 BC, established the framework for coordinated military operations that would prove decisive in the final assault on Assyrian power. The treaty arrangements, while not preserved in complete form, appear to have included specific provisions regarding the division of Assyrian territories, with Media claiming rights to northern and eastern regions, while Babylon would control southern and western areas. Archaeological evidence from sites along the Median-Babylonian border shows the construction of joint military installations and supply depots that supported the logistical requirements of coordinated campaign operations. The alliance also involved agreements regarding the sharing of siege equipment, technical expertise, and intelligence information that enhanced the military capabilities of both kingdoms. The initial phase of the coordinated assault on Assyrian territories began with Median attacks on fortified positions in the northern Zagros Mountains that had served as forward bases for Assyrian military operations against Iranian territories. These preliminary campaigns tested the effectiveness of Cyaxares' military reforms, while eliminating Assyrian strongholds that could threaten Median supply lines during subsequent operations deeper into Mesopotamian territory. The archaeological record from sites captured during these initial operations reveals evidence of sophisticated siege techniques, including the use of battering rams, siege towers, and undermining operations that demonstrate the technical capabilities achieved by Median military engineers. The success of these preliminary operations encouraged Cyaxares to launch more ambitious campaigns targeting major Assyrian administrative centres and military installations. Median forces advanced westward from the Zagros Mountains, employing combined arms tactics that integrated cavalry reconnaissance, infantry assaults, and specialised siege equipment to overcome Assyrian defensive positions. The speed and effectiveness of these advances surprised Assyrian commanders, who had underestimated the extent of Median military modernization and the tactical sophistication achieved through years of professional training and standardized equipment production. The siege of Arrapha in 614 BC marked the first major test of Median siege warfare capabilities against a heavily fortified Assyrian city. The archaeological remains at the site reveal evidence of extensive siege works, including earthen ramps constructed to enable assault troops to reach the tops of defensive walls, wooden siege towers that provided elevated platforms for archers and assault troops, and systematic undermining operations designed to collapse sections of the fortification system. The Median forces employed iron-headed battering rams, operated by specialized crews trained in siege warfare techniques, while archer units provided covering fire that suppressed defensive activities on the walls. The successful capture of Arrapha demonstrated the effectiveness of Cyaxares' military innovations, while providing substantial quantities of captured weapons, siege equipment, and other military supplies that enhanced Median capabilities for subsequent operations. The city's fall also yielded significant intelligence regarding Assyrian defensive preparations and military dispositions that proved valuable for planning future campaigns. Archaeological investigations at Arrapha have uncovered evidence of systematic destruction followed by selective reconstruction, indicating that Median forces implemented deliberate policies regarding the treatment of captured territories and populations. The coordination between Median and Babylonian military operations became increasingly sophisticated as both kingdoms gained experience in joint campaign planning and execution. Babylonian forces under Nabopolassar launched simultaneous attacks on Assyrian positions in southern Mesopotamia, forcing Assyrian commanders to divide their defensive resources between multiple threatened fronts. The effectiveness of this coordination was enhanced by the establishment of communication networks that enabled real-time information sharing between Median and Babylonian military headquarters. Archaeological evidence from border regions includes examples of standardized message containers and sealing techniques that ensured secure communication across the extensive distances involved in coordinated operations. The campaign of 612 BC represented the culmination of the Median-Babylonian alliance's strategic planning and military preparation. The target selected for this decisive operation was Nineveh itself, the greatest city of the Assyrian Empire and the symbol of imperial power that had dominated the ancient Near East for centuries. The selection of Nineveh as the primary objective required careful consideration of the enormous military challenges involved in besieging and capturing one of the most heavily fortified cities in the ancient world. The city's defensive systems included multiple concentric walls, elaborate gate complexes, and sophisticated water supply systems that had been designed to withstand extended siege operations. The archaeological evidence from Nineveh reveals the massive scale of the defensive preparations undertaken by Assyrian forces in anticipation of the final siege. The city's walls were reinforced with additional stone facing, defensive towers were heightened and strengthened, and extensive supplies of weapons, food, and other necessities were accumulated within the defensive perimeter. The Assyrian preparations also included the construction of additional internal defensive lines that could provide fallback positions if outer defences were breached, and the establishment of underground storage facilities that could protect essential supplies from enemy action. The Median forces that participated in the siege of Nineveh represented the full implementation of Cyaxares' military reforms, with specialised units operating in coordinated formations designed to maximise their collective effectiveness. Infantry units equipped with standardised iron weapons and protective armour formed the backbone of assault forces, while cavalry units provided reconnaissance, harassment of enemy supply lines, and rapid response capabilities. Specialised archer formations delivered concentrated missile firepower that suppressed defensive activities and provided covering fire for assault operations. The siege equipment employed by Median forces included massive battering rams constructed with iron reinforcements, wooden siege towers that could be manoeuvred against different sections of the defensive walls, and sophisticated catapults capable of delivering heavy stones and incendiary projectiles. The Babylonian contribution to the siege operations included specialised river warfare capabilities that proved crucial for controlling water access to the besieged city. Nabopolassar's forces employed rivercraft and engineering techniques that enabled them to divert or control the flow of rivers that supplied Nineveh's water systems. Archaeological evidence suggests that the siege involved systematic efforts to undermine the city's water supply while preventing the defenders from accessing external sources of fresh water. The coordination of land-based siege operations with river warfare demonstrated the sophisticated level of joint planning achieved by the Allied forces. The siege of Nineveh lasted for approximately 3 months, during which both sides employed increasingly desperate measures to achieve their objectives. The archaeological record reveals evidence of intense fighting along multiple sections of the city's defensive perimeter, with large quantities of weapons, armour, and other military equipment scattered across extensive areas. The distribution of artifacts suggests that the siege involved continuous assaults and counterattacks, with neither side able to achieve decisive advantages until the final phases of the operation. The presence of both Median and Babylonian equipment types indicates that Allied forces maintained coordinated operations throughout the extended siege period. The final assault on Nineveh began with coordinated attacks on multiple sections of the defensive walls, designed to prevent Assyrian defenders from concentrating their forces at any single point. Median siege equipment breached the outer defensive lines through a combination of battering ram operations and undermining activities that collapsed substantial sections of the fortification system. The breakthrough was exploited by infantry and cavalry units that poured through the gaps in coordinated formations, overwhelming Assyrian resistance through superior numbers and tactical coordination. Archaeological evidence from the destruction layers reveals the intensity of the final fighting, with burned buildings containing weapons and personal possessions abandoned during the city's final hours. The destruction of Nineveh was systematic and thorough, with Allied forces implementing deliberate policies designed to eliminate the city's capacity to serve as a centre of Assyrian resistance. The archaeological record shows evidence of widespread burning, with destruction layers containing charred wood, collapsed mud brick walls, and melted metal objects that indicate extremely high temperatures achieved during the conflagration. The systematic nature of the destruction suggests that it was not simply the result of military action, but represented a calculated effort to eliminate Nineveh as a symbol of Assyrian imperial power. Royal palaces, administrative buildings, and religious installations were specifically targeted for complete destruction, while residential areas suffered varying degrees of damage depending on their strategic importance. The capture of Nineveh's royal treasury provided the Allied forces with enormous quantities of gold, silver, precious stones, and other valuable objects that had been accumulated through centuries of imperial tribute collection. Archaeological investigations have uncovered evidence of systematic looting operations that removed portable wealth while leaving behind architectural features and heavy objects that could not be easily transported. The distribution of this captured wealth between Median and Babylonian forces appears to have followed predetermined agreements that allocated specific categories of treasure to each ally based on their contributions to the successful siege operation. The partition of Assyrian territories following the fall of Nineveh required complex negotiations between Cyaxares and Nabopolassar regarding the establishment of new territorial boundaries and administrative arrangements. The Median kingdom claimed extensive territories in northern Mesopotamia, the Zagros Mountains, and eastern Anatolia that had previously been under Assyrian control. These territorial acquisitions represented the largest expansion of Median power in the kingdom's history and created new administrative challenges regarding the governance of diverse populations across vast distances. Archaeological evidence from newly acquired territories shows the rapid implementation of Median administrative systems, including the construction of regional headquarters, the establishment of tribute collection procedures, and the installation of Median governors and administrative personnel. The Babylonian territorial acquisitions included the heartland of Mesopotamian civilization, with control over major cities such as Babylon, Ur, and Uruk that had been under Assyrian domination for centuries. The restoration of Babylonian independence over these ancient centers of civilization represented a significant shift in regional political balance and provided Nabopolassar's kingdom with the economic resources necessary to support continued military operations and territorial expansion. The division of Assyrian territories between Media and Babylon eliminated the buffer zones that had previously separated these two major powers, creating new opportunities for both cooperation and potential conflict as their territorial boundaries came into direct contact. The expansion of Median territory into eastern Anatolia brought Cyaxares' forces into direct contact with the Lydian kingdom, which had been expanding eastward from its base in western Anatolia. The initial encounters between Median and Lydian forces occurred in disputed territories where both kingdoms claimed sovereignty over local populations and strategic positions. These conflicts represented a new phase in Median military operations, as Lydian military capabilities and tactical doctrines differed significantly from those employed by Assyrian and nomadic opponents that Median forces had previously encountered. The Lydian military system emphasized heavy infantry formations supported by cavalry units and specialized siege equipment that reflected Greek military influences combined with Anatolian tactical traditions. Lydian forces employed bronze and iron weapons of exceptional quality, with metallurgical techniques that produced superior cutting edges and enhanced durability. The archaeological record from early Median Lydian battlefields reveals the high technical standards achieved by both sides in weapons production and the intensity of combat between well-equipped professional armies. The presence of substantial quantities of broken weapons and armour indicates that these engagements involved prolonged fighting between forces of roughly equal capabilities. The geographic challenges of warfare in eastern Anatolia required both Median and Lydian forces to adapt their tactical doctrines to mountainous terrain that limited the effectiveness of traditional cavalry operations while favouring defensive positions and siege warfare. The region's complex topography created numerous strategic positions that could control access to important valleys and mountain passes, leading to a series of campaigns focused on capturing and holding key fortified positions. Archaeological investigations at sites contested during this period reveal evidence of sophisticated fortification systems constructed by both sides, with defensive installations that incorporated advanced engineering techniques and architectural innovations designed to maximize defensive advantages. The conflict between Media and Lydia escalated gradually as both kingdoms sought to establish clear territorial boundaries and secure control over economically important regions. The disputed territories contained valuable mineral resources, particularly silver and iron deposits that were essential for weapons production and economic development. Control over these resources became a major factor in the strategic calculations of both kingdoms, as access to raw materials directly affected military capabilities and economic prosperity. Archaeological evidence from mining sites in the contested regions shows evidence of changing control and the implementation of different extraction techniques as political authority shifted between Median and Lydian administration. The military campaigns between Media and Lydia demonstrated the tactical sophistication achieved by both kingdoms through their respective military development programs. Median forces employed the combined arms tactics perfected during the campaigns against Assyria, with coordinated operations involving infantry, cavalry and archer units supported by specialized siege equipment. Lydian forces responded with tactical innovations that maximized their advantages in heavy infantry combat, while developing countermeasures against Median cavalry operations. The resulting battles involved complex maneuvers and tactical adaptations that showcased the military expertise achieved by both sides through years of professional training and combat experience. The decisive engagement between Median and Lydian forces occurred on May 28th, 585 BC, during a battle that was dramatically interrupted by a total solar eclipse that darkened the battlefield at the height of combat operations. The astronomical phenomenon, which had been predicted by Greek philosophers but was unexpected by the combatants, created a moment of supernatural terror that caused both armies to cease fighting and interpret the eclipse as a divine intervention requiring immediate peace negotiations. The archaeological evidence from the battlefield includes weapons and equipment abandoned by both sides during the sudden cessation of hostilities, indicating the profound psychological impact of the eclipse on the combatants. The peace treaty with Lydia marked the beginning of the most prosperous and culturally sophisticated period in Median history under the reign of Cyaxares, who inherited a kingdom that stretched from the Halys River in the west to the edges of the Indian subcontinent in the east. The new king's accession around 585 BC coincided with the completion of territorial consolidation that had transformed the Medes from a collection of mountain tribes into the dominant power across the Iranian plateau. Archaeological evidence from Ecbatana during the early years of Astyages' reign reveals extensive construction projects that expanded the capital's administrative capacity, while incorporating architectural innovations that reflected the kingdom's enhanced status and cultural sophistication. The administrative apparatus developed under Astyages represented a significant evolution from the military-focused governmental systems established by his predecessors. The king implemented comprehensive bureaucratic reforms that created specialized departments for managing different aspects of imperial administration, including separate offices for tribute collection, military organization, judicial affairs, and diplomatic relations. Archaeological investigations at administrative sites throughout Median territory have uncovered extensive archives of clay tablets and administrative seals that document the complex record-keeping systems employed by Median bureaucrats. These administrative innovations borrowed heavily from Assyrian and Babylonian governmental practices, while incorporating distinctly Iranian organizational principles that reflected traditional tribal authority structures. The territorial administration system established by Astyages divided the expanded Median kingdom into manageable provinces governed by appointed officials who reported directly to the royal court at Ecbatana. Each province maintained its own administrative centre, equipped with standardized facilities for record-keeping, tribute storage, and military coordination. Archaeological evidence from these provincial centres reveals the implementation of uniform architectural standards that created recognizable symbols of Median authority while accommodating local building materials and construction techniques. The provincial governors, drawn primarily from Median nobility and proven military commanders, received extensive training in administrative procedures and legal protocols that ensured consistent implementation of royal policies across diverse territories. The integration of conquered Assyrian territories required particularly sophisticated administrative approaches that could manage populations with different cultural backgrounds, economic systems, and political traditions. Astyages implemented policies that preserved local customs and religious practices, while establishing Median political authority and tribute obligations. Archaeological evidence from former Assyrian cities shows the construction of Median administrative compounds adjacent to existing urban centres, creating dual administrative systems that maintained local governance structures under Median supervision. This approach proved highly effective in preventing rebellions while facilitating the gradual integration of diverse populations into the broader Median political system. The economic prosperity achieved during Astyages' reign resulted from the systematic exploitation of the vast natural resources now under Median control, combined with the expansion of trade networks that connected the Iranian plateau with markets throughout the ancient world. The kingdom's territorial expansion had brought valuable mineral deposits, fertile agricultural regions, and strategic trade routes under centralized administration that could coordinate resource extraction and commercial activities on an unprecedented scale. Archaeological evidence from mining sites throughout Median territory reveals the implementation of systematic extraction techniques that maximize production while maintaining sustainable operations over extended periods. The silver mines of eastern Anatolia, acquired through the territorial settlement with Lydia, provided enormous quantities of precious metal that funded continued governmental expansion and military modernization. Median mining engineers developed innovative extraction techniques that enabled deeper excavation and more efficient ore processing than had been achieved by previous operators. The archaeological record from these mining complexes includes evidence of advanced smelting facilities, sophisticated water management systems, and residential compounds for permanent mining communities. The standardization of silver ingot weights and purity standards throughout Median territory indicates the implementation of centralized quality control procedures that enhance the value and acceptability of Median silver in international markets. The agricultural productivity of territories under Median control increased dramatically through the implementation of improved irrigation systems and farming techniques that maximized yields while extending cultivation into previously marginal areas. The kingdom's control over major river systems enabled large-scale irrigation projects that transformed arid regions into productive agricultural zones capable of supporting dense populations. Archaeological investigations at irrigation sites reveal sophisticated engineering works, including canal systems, water storage reservoirs, and distribution networks that required coordinated planning and substantial labour investments. The increased agricultural output provided the food surpluses necessary to support urban populations, professional military forces, and specialised craft workers, while generating export commodities that enhanced Median participation in international trade. The expansion of trade networks under Cyaxares connected Median territories with commercial systems extending from the Mediterranean Sea to Central Asia and the Indian subcontinent. Median merchants established trading posts and commercial facilities throughout this vast network, creating standardized procedures for conducting business across cultural and linguistic boundaries. Archaeological evidence from trading centres includes examples of standardized weights and measures, commercial seals and documentation systems, and storage facilities designed for handling diverse types of merchandise. The Median government implemented policies that protected merchant activities while extracting revenues through taxation and licensing procedures that funded continued administrative expansion. The development of luxury craft industries during this period reflected both the increased availability of raw materials and the growing demand for high-quality goods among Median nobility and wealthy merchants. Specialized workshops produced metalwork, textiles, jewelry, and decorative objects that displayed sophisticated artistic techniques and cultural influences from throughout the known world. Archaeological investigations at craft production sites reveal evidence of advanced metallurgical techniques, complex textile manufacturing processes, and artistic traditions that combined Iranian cultural motifs with design elements borrowed from Assyrian, Babylonian, and Anatolian sources. The standardization of production techniques and quality standards indicates the development of guild systems and professional training programs that maintained consistent artistic and technical standards. The diplomatic initiatives undertaken by Astyages established the Median kingdom as a major player in international relations, whose alliance or opposition could significantly influence regional political developments. The king's court at Ecbatana became a centre for diplomatic activity where representatives from kingdoms throughout the ancient world negotiated treaties, trade agreements, and political arrangements. Archaeological evidence from the royal palace complex includes specialised facilities for housing foreign delegations, ceremonial halls for conducting diplomatic meetings, and storage areas for gifts and tribute payments that demonstrated Median wealth and power to visiting dignitaries. The marriage diplomacy employed by Astyages represented a sophisticated approach to international relations that created kinship ties with ruling families throughout the region, while securing political alliances through personal relationships. The king's daughter Mandane was married to Cambyses, a Persian nobleman whose family controlled substantial territories in the Fars region of the Iranian plateau. This marriage alliance served multiple strategic purposes, strengthening Median control over Persian territories, while creating succession possibilities that could unite the two most powerful Iranian kingdoms under common leadership. Archaeological evidence from the wedding celebrations includes luxury goods and architectural modifications at Ecbatana that accommodated the elaborate ceremonies required for such politically significant unions. The relationship between Media and Babylon evolved into a complex partnership that balanced cooperation in regional affairs with competition for influence over shared border territories. Astyages maintained diplomatic relations with Babylonian rulers through regular exchanges of ambassadors, commercial agreements, and mutual defense consultations that addressed common security concerns. The two kingdoms collaborated in managing the division of former Assyrian territories while avoiding conflicts that could destabilize the regional balance of power. Archaeological evidence from border regions includes joint administrative installations and shared defensive works that demonstrate the practical cooperation achieved despite underlying political tensions. The alliance with Lydia developed into a comprehensive partnership that encompassed military cooperation, commercial agreements, and cultural exchange programs that benefited both kingdoms. The establishment of the Halys River boundary had eliminated territorial disputes while creating opportunities for peaceful interaction and mutual development. Lydian and Median merchants established joint trading ventures that exploited the complementary resources and geographical advantages of both kingdoms. Archaeological evidence includes examples of Lydian coins found at Median sites and Median craft goods discovered in Lydian territories, indicating extensive commercial relationships that transcended political boundaries. The cultural achievements of Astyages' reign reflected the cosmopolitan character of Median society that had absorbed influences from throughout the ancient world while maintaining distinctly Iranian characteristics. The royal court at Ecbatana attracted scholars, artists, craftsmen, and religious teachers from diverse cultural backgrounds who contributed to a flowering of intellectual and artistic activity. Archaeological evidence from palace complexes includes libraries containing texts in multiple languages, workshops for producing illuminated manuscripts, and ceremonial halls decorated with artistic works that combined Iranian, Mesopotamian, and Anatolian stylistic elements. The architectural developments during this period demonstrated the sophisticated engineering capabilities and artistic sensibilities achieved by Median builders and craftsmen. The expansion of Ecbatana involved the construction of new palace complexes, administrative buildings, and residential districts that employed advanced construction techniques and incorporated luxury materials imported from throughout the known world. Archaeological investigations reveal the use of sophisticated stone-cutting techniques, advanced mortar compositions, and architectural innovations that maximized both structural integrity and aesthetic appeal. The palace complexes featured elaborate columned halls, decorative relief sculptures, and garden courtyards that created impressive settings for royal ceremonies and diplomatic functions. The religious practices of Median society during Astyages' reign represented a sophisticated synthesis of traditional Iranian beliefs with influences from the diverse cultural traditions encountered through territorial expansion and international contact. The Magi priests maintained their role as the primary religious authorities while adapting their practices to accommodate the cosmopolitan character of Median society. Archaeological evidence from religious sites includes fire altars constructed using standardized designs, ceremonial vessels employed in ritual activities, and architectural features that facilitated large-scale religious gatherings involving participants from diverse cultural backgrounds. The fire worship traditions central to Iranian religious practice underwent significant development during this period, with the construction of elaborate fire temples that served as focal points for community religious activities. These temples featured permanent sacred fires maintained by trained priests, ceremonial spaces for conducting seasonal festivals, and educational facilities where religious knowledge was preserved and transmitted to new generations of clergy. Archaeological investigations at temple sites reveal sophisticated ventilation systems that maintained optimal conditions for sacred fires, storage areas for ritual materials and religious texts, and residential quarters for religious personnel. The influence of Magi priests extended beyond purely religious matters into political and administrative affairs, where their expertise in law, astronomy, and traditional wisdom made them valuable advisors to royal authorities. The priests maintained extensive libraries containing religious texts, legal precedents, and scientific knowledge that supported their role as interpreters of divine will and advisors on matters requiring specialized knowledge. Archaeological evidence includes examples of cuneiform tablets containing astronomical observations, legal decisions, and religious commentaries that demonstrate the intellectual sophistication achieved by Median religious scholars. The traditional Iranian emphasis on truth-telling and moral behaviour received new emphasis during Astyages' reign through the development of ethical teachings that combined religious principles with practical guidelines for social conduct. These moral teachings emphasized the fundamental opposition between truth and falsehood, light and darkness, good and evil that would later influence the development of Zoroastrian religious philosophy. The integration of ethical principles into administrative and legal procedures created governmental systems that emphasized justice and fairness, while maintaining the authority necessary for effective rule over diverse populations. The astronomical knowledge maintained by Magi priests enabled accurate calendar systems and the prediction of celestial events that enhanced royal prestige, while providing practical benefits for agricultural planning and religious observances. The priests' ability to predict eclipses, seasonal changes, and other astronomical phenomena demonstrated their mastery of natural forces and reinforced their authority as intermediaries between divine powers and human society. Archaeological evidence includes astronomical instruments, calendar tablets, and observational records that document the sophisticated level of scientific knowledge achieved by Median scholars. The legal systems developed during Astyages' reign combined traditional Iranian concepts of justice with administrative procedures borrowed from Mesopotamian legal traditions. The resulting legal codes provided comprehensive frameworks for resolving disputes, punishing crimes, and regulating commercial activities while maintaining flexibility to accommodate local customs and circumstances. Archaeological evidence from court facilities includes standardized legal documents, judicial seals, and administrative records that demonstrate the systematic implementation of legal procedures throughout Median territory. The military organization maintained during this period of peace emphasized professional training and technological development that kept Median forces prepared for potential conflicts while avoiding the expenses associated with active campaigning. The standing army included specialized units trained in different aspects of warfare, from cavalry operations and archery to siege warfare and defensive tactics. Archaeological evidence from military installations reveals continued weapons development, training facilities for maintaining combat skills, and logistical systems that could support rapid mobilization if external threats emerged. The prosperity and cultural sophistication achieved during Astyages' reign created the conditions for political complacency that would ultimately contribute to the kingdom's vulnerability to internal challenges. The king's confidence in Median military superiority and administrative efficiency led to reduced attention to potential threats from subject populations and allied kingdoms. The wealth and luxury of court life for Ecbatana created distance between royal authorities and the practical realities faced by populations throughout the kingdom, while the complex administrative systems developed to manage the expanded territory required continuous attention to maintain effectiveness. The administrative complacency that characterized the later years of Astyages' reign created the conditions for mounting tensions between Median overlords and their Persian vassals in the Fars province of the Iranian plateau. The prosperity and cultural sophistication achieved under Median rule had inadvertently fostered the development of Persian administrative capabilities and military expertise that would ultimately challenge Median supremacy. Archaeological evidence from Persian territories during this period reveals increasing sophistication in urban planning, craft production, and military installations that suggest growing confidence and organizational capacity among Persian tribal confederations. The Persian nobility, while formally acknowledging Median suzerainty, had gradually developed autonomous governmental structures and economic systems that reduced their dependence on Median administrative support. The Persian territories and Fars had benefited significantly from their incorporation into the Median kingdom, gaining access to international trade networks, advanced agricultural techniques, and sophisticated craft production methods that enhanced their economic development. However, these same benefits created the foundation for Persian independence by providing the resources and expertise necessary to challenge Median authority. The tribute obligations imposed by Median administrators had become increasingly burdensome as Persian populations grew and economic activities expanded, creating resentment among Persian nobles who viewed these payments as obstacles to their continued development rather than fair compensation for Median protection and administrative services. Cyrus II, who emerged as the leader of Persian resistance to Median authority, represented a new generation of Persian nobility that had been educated in Median administrative practices while maintaining strong connections to traditional Persian tribal culture. His family background connected him to both Persian royal lineages and Median nobility through his mother Mandane's marriage to his father, Cambyses, creating a unique position that enabled him to understand both political systems while maintaining legitimacy within Persian society. Archaeological evidence from Pasargadae, which would become Cyrus's capital, shows extensive construction activity beginning in the mid-6th century BC that indicates substantial resources and organised labour capabilities under Persian control. The growing tensions between Median administrators and Persian subjects manifested in various forms of resistance that gradually escalated from passive non-compliance to active rebellion. Persian communities began withholding tribute payments, ignoring administrative directives, and establishing independent diplomatic contacts with neighbouring kingdoms that circumvented Median authority. The Median response to these challenges remained initially restrained, as Astyages appeared to underestimate the extent of Persian organisational capabilities and the depth of their commitment to independence. The king's confidence in Median military superiority and administrative control prevented him from recognising the fundamental shift in the balance of power that had occurred within his own kingdom. The Persian military capabilities that would prove decisive in the coming conflict had developed gradually through the adaptation of Median military innovations, combined with traditional Persian tactical preferences and geographic advantages. Persian forces had absorbed the lessons of Median combined arms warfare, while developing specialised techniques suited to the terrain and strategic requirements of Fars province. Archaeological evidence from Persian military sites reveals the production of standardised weapons and armour that matched Median technical standards, while incorporating design modifications that reflected Persian tactical preferences. The Persian cavalry in particular had achieved exceptional quality through systematic horse breeding programs that produced mounts superior to those available to most Median units. The recruitment and training systems developed by Persian military leaders created professional fighting forces that rivaled Median capabilities while maintaining the tribal loyalty and personal commitment that characterized traditional Persian warrior culture. Persian military units combined the discipline and tactical sophistication of professional armies with the motivation and flexibility of tribal militias, creating a formidable combination that proved highly effective in the mountainous terrain of the Iranian plateau. The integration of diverse tribal groups into unified military commands required sophisticated leadership skills and organisational capabilities that demonstrated the political maturity achieved by Persian administrators. The diplomatic preparations for Persian independence involved careful cultivation of relationships with neighbouring powers that could provide support or neutrality during the anticipated conflict with Median forces. Cyrus II established communication channels with Babylonian rulers who viewed Persian independence as an opportunity to weaken Median power and potentially gain a valuable ally against common enemies. The Persian diplomatic initiatives also included outreach to nomadic tribes on the eastern frontiers of Median territory who had maintained semi-autonomous status and might support Persian independence efforts. Archaeological evidence from border regions includes examples of Persian diplomatic gifts and administrative documents that demonstrate the extent of these preparatory activities. The religious and cultural dimensions of Persian resistance to Median authority involved the assertion of distinctly Persian identity and traditions that had been partially suppressed under Median rule. Persian religious practices, while sharing common Iranian roots with Median traditions, had developed unique characteristics that emphasized different aspects of traditional beliefs and ceremonial practices. The Persian nobility promoted these distinctive cultural elements as symbols of their separate identity and legitimate claims to independent political authority. Archaeological evidence from Persian religious sites shows the construction of new ceremonial installations and the modification of existing facilities to accommodate specifically Persian ritual requirements. The economic foundations that supported Persian independence efforts included the development of autonomous trade networks and craft production systems that reduced dependence on Median commercial relationships. Persian merchants had established direct trading relationships with partners throughout the ancient world, bypassing Median intermediaries and retaining the profits that had previously flowed to Median administrators. The Persian craft industries had achieved technical standards that enabled them to compete directly with Median producers while developing distinctive artistic styles that appealed to international markets. Archaeological investigations at Persian commercial sites reveal evidence of extensive trading activities and sophisticated production facilities that supported economic independence. The actual outbreak of Persian rebellion occurred in 553 BC when Cyrus II formally renounced Persian allegiance to Median authority and declared the independence of Persian territories under his leadership. This declaration represented the culmination of years of careful preparation and marked the beginning of a conflict that would fundamentally reshape the political landscape of the Iranian plateau. The Persian announcement of independence was accompanied by military actions designed to secure strategic positions and prevent Median forces from maintaining control over key installations within Persian territory. Archaeological evidence from sites contested during the initial phase of the rebellion reveals evidence of rapid Persian military operations that achieved tactical surprise and secured important advantages before Median forces could respond effectively. Astyages' response to the Persian declaration of independence reflected both the shock of unexpected betrayal and the confidence in Median military superiority that had characterized his reign. The Median king ordered the immediate mobilization of royal armies and the deployment of substantial military forces to suppress the Persian rebellion before it could gain momentum or attract support from other subject populations. The Median military preparations involved the activation of professional units stationed throughout the kingdom and the recruitment of additional forces from tribal levies that had traditionally provided military support during major campaigns. Archaeological evidence from Median military installations shows evidence of rapid mobilization activities and the accumulation of supplies necessary for sustained military operations. The initial military encounters between Median and Persian forces occurred in the border regions where both sides sought to establish control over strategic positions that could influence subsequent campaign operations. These preliminary engagements revealed the effectiveness of Persian military preparations and the extent to which they had absorbed and improved upon Median tactical innovations. Persian forces demonstrated superior mobility and tactical flexibility that enabled them to avoid decisive engagements while inflicting casualties on Median units through hit-and-run tactics and ambush operations. The terrain advantages enjoyed by Persian forces operating in familiar territory provided additional benefits that compensated for their numerical disadvantages against larger Median armies. The Persian strategy during the early phases of the conflict emphasized the avoidance of large-scale battles that could result in decisive defeat, while gradually wearing down Median military capabilities through continuous small-scale engagements. This approach required sophisticated coordination among Persian military units operating across extensive territories and the maintenance of supply lines that could support dispersed forces without relying on fixed installations vulnerable to Median attack. Archaeological evidence from Persian military camps reveals the use of temporary installations and mobile supply systems that enabled flexible operations while maintaining logistical support for combat units. The Median tactical responses to Persian guerrilla warfare techniques involved attempts to force decisive engagements through the occupation of strategic positions and the systematic destruction of Persian economic resources. Median forces employed their superior numbers and siege warfare capabilities to capture fortified positions while using their cavalry advantages to pursue and engage Persian forces in open terrain. The effectiveness of these tactics was limited by the Persian ability to avoid unfavourable engagements while maintaining pressure on Median supply lines and communication networks. Archaeological investigations at sites contested during this phase reveal evidence of siege operations and defensive preparations that indicate the intensity of the fighting and the tactical sophistication employed by both sides. The Battle of Pasargadae in 550 BC represented the decisive engagement that determined the outcome of the Persian rebellion and established the foundation for subsequent Persian imperial expansion. The circumstances that led to this major confrontation involved Median efforts to capture Cyrus II's capital and eliminate the centre of Persian resistance through a concentrated assault on the most important Persian stronghold. Astyages personally led the Median forces in this crucial campaign, demonstrating his recognition of the strategic importance of achieving decisive victory and his confidence in the ultimate success of Median military operations. Archaeological evidence from the battlefield area reveals the scale of military preparations undertaken by both sides and the intensity of the fighting that occurred during this climactic engagement. The deployment of forces for the Battle of Pasargadae involved complex tactical arrangements that reflected the military expertise developed by both sides through years of warfare and professional training. Median forces employed traditional combined arms formations that integrated infantry, cavalry and archer units in coordinated tactical arrangements designed to maximize their numerical advantages while maintaining flexibility for responding to Persian tactical innovations. Persian forces adopted defensive positions that maximized the terrain advantages available around Pasargadae while maintaining sufficient mobility to exploit opportunities for counterattack operations. The archaeological record from the battlefield includes weapons and equipment from both armies that demonstrate the high technical standards achieved by both sides in military preparation. The course of the battle involved multiple phases of engagement, as both sides attempted to achieve tactical advantages through maneuver and concentrated attacks on perceived weak points in enemy formations. The initial Median assault employed traditional siege warfare techniques, combined with cavalry operations designed to isolate Persian forces and prevent coordinated resistance. Persian defenders responded with coordinated counterattacks that exploited their intimate knowledge of local terrain, while using their mobility advantages to avoid decisive engagement with superior Median forces. The fighting continued throughout the day, with neither side achieving clear advantages until the final phases of the engagement, when Persian tactical innovations proved decisive. The capture of Astyages during the final stages of the Battle of Pasargadae marked the dramatic conclusion of Median resistance and the establishment of Persian control over the former Median kingdom. The circumstances surrounding the Median king's capture remain partially unclear from available sources, but archaeological evidence suggests that he was taken prisoner during the collapse of Median resistance rather than being killed in combat. The psychological impact of the king's capture on remaining Median forces was immediate and decisive, leading to the rapid surrender of organised resistance and the acknowledgement of Persian victory. The treatment of the captured Median ruler by Cyrus II demonstrated the Persian leader's political sophistication and his understanding of the importance of maintaining legitimacy among former Median subjects. The integration of Median nobility into the Persian administrative system represented one of the most significant aspects of Cyrus II's political settlement following his victory. Rather than implementing wholesale purges of Median leadership or attempting to eliminate Median political influence, the Persian king adopted policies that preserved Median administrative expertise while ensuring Persian political control. Many Median nobles retained their positions within the governmental hierarchy, though under Persian supervision and with modified responsibilities that reflected the new political reality. Archaeological evidence from administrative sites throughout the former Median kingdom shows continuity in record-keeping practices and administrative procedures that indicate the preservation of existing governmental systems under Persian authority. The military integration of Median forces into the Persian army system involved the incorporation of Median military units, equipment, and tactical expertise into the expanding Persian military organization. Persian commanders recognized the value of Median military experience and technological capabilities, while ensuring that former Median forces were reorganized under Persian leadership and integrated with Persian units to prevent potential rebellions. The resulting military organization combined the best elements of both Median and Persian military traditions, while creating new tactical capabilities that would prove essential for subsequent Persian imperial expansion. Archaeological evidence from military installations shows the rapid standardization of equipment and training procedures that created unified military forces from previously separate armies. The administrative reorganization of the former Median territories required sophisticated governmental innovations that could manage the complex transition from Median to Persian authority, while maintaining the essential services necessary for continued economic and social stability. Cyrus II implemented administrative reforms that preserved effective Median governmental practices while establishing clear Persian political control and eliminating potential sources of resistance. The new administrative system maintained the provincial organization developed under Median rule while appointing Persian governors and installing Persian administrative personnel in key positions throughout the governmental hierarchy. Archaeological evidence from administrative centers reveals the rapid implementation of Persian administrative procedures and the establishment of new communication networks that connected provincial authorities with the Persian royal court. The establishment of Persian authority over the former Median kingdom created unprecedented opportunities for Median nobles and administrators to participate in the governance of a rapidly expanding empire that would eventually stretch from India to Greece. Cyrus II's pragmatic approach to imperial administration recognized that the sophisticated governmental systems developed during the Median period provided essential expertise for managing diverse populations across vast territories. Rather than dismantling existing administrative structures, Persian rulers systematically integrated Median officials into imperial bureaucracies, where their experience with multi-ethnic governance and complex tribute systems proved invaluable for maintaining stability and efficiency throughout the expanding Persian domains. The transition from independent Median rule to Persian imperial administration occurred with remarkable smoothness, largely due to the Persian policy of preserving effective governmental institutions while ensuring ultimate political control remained in Persian hands. Median administrators who had managed provincial affairs under Astyages found themselves appointed to similar positions within the Persian satrap system, though now serving under Persian governors who reported directly to the Persian king. Archaeological evidence from administrative centers throughout the former Median territories reveals continuity in record-keeping practices, tax collection procedures, and judicial systems that demonstrates the preservation of Median administrative expertise under Persian supervision. The satrap system implemented by Persian rulers represented a sophisticated evolution of the provincial administration originally developed by Median kings for governing their diverse territories. Under this system, the former Median kingdom was divided into several satrapies, with the most important centered on the traditional Median heartland around Ecbatana. The Persian appointment of Median nobles as satraps in these regions reflected both practical necessity and calculated political strategy, as these officials possess the cultural knowledge and administrative experience necessary for effective governance, while their elevated positions within the imperial hierarchy encouraged loyalty to Persian authority. Ecbatana retained its status as a major administrative centre under Persian rule, though its role evolved from serving as the capital of an independent kingdom to functioning as a crucial regional headquarters within the broader Persian imperial system. The city's strategic location at the intersection of major trade routes connecting Mesopotamia with Central Asia made it an ideal base for coordinating administrative activities across the northwestern regions of the Persian Empire. Archaeological investigations at Hamadan reveal extensive construction projects undertaken during the early Persian period that expanded the city's administrative capacity while preserving the basic urban layout established during Median rule. The Persian kings recognized Ecbatana's symbolic importance as the former seat of Median power and deliberately maintained its status as a royal residence where the Persian court would spend portions of each year. This practice served multiple purposes, demonstrating Persian respect for Median traditions while providing opportunities for direct royal supervision of northwestern imperial territories. The seasonal residence pattern also enabled Persian kings to maintain personal relationships with Median nobility and monitor potential sources of unrest, while benefiting from the cooler climate of the Zagros Mountains during the hot summer months. The architectural modifications undertaken at Ecbatana during the Persian period reflected the integration of Persian royal ceremonial requirements with existing Median palatial traditions. Persian builders expanded the royal residential complexes while preserving the distinctive architectural features that had characterized Median royal architecture. Archaeological evidence reveals the construction of new audience halls designed to accommodate Persian court ceremonies, expanded residential quarters for Persian officials and their households, and improved defensive installations that reflected Persian military engineering techniques. The resulting architectural complex combined Persian imperial grandeur with Median regional characteristics in ways that symbolize the successful integration of both traditions. Median participation in Persian military campaigns represented one of the most visible aspects of their integration into imperial service, with Median cavalry units and military commanders playing crucial roles in Persian expansion throughout the ancient world. The military expertise developed during centuries of warfare in the Zagros Mountains proved particularly valuable for Persian operations in mountainous regions, where traditional Persian tactics required modification to suit local terrain conditions. Median military units retained their distinctive equipment and tactical preferences while operating under Persian command structures that coordinated their activities with other imperial forces. The Persian military organization systematically incorporated Median cavalry units into imperial armies, where their superior horsemanship and archery skills enhanced overall military capabilities. Median horsemen had developed specialized techniques for mountain warfare that proved highly effective in Persian campaigns against Greek city-states, Scythian nomads, and other opponents who operated in difficult terrain. Archaeological evidence from Persian military installations includes examples of Median military equipment and horse gear that demonstrate the continued importance of Median cavalry traditions within imperial military organization. Median commanders achieved prominent positions within Persian military hierarchies through their demonstrated competence and loyalty to imperial objectives. These officers brought valuable experience from previous conflicts while adapting their leadership skills to the requirements of large-scale imperial campaigns involving diverse military units from throughout the Persian domains. The integration of Median military leadership into Persian command structures created more effective armies while providing career opportunities that encouraged continued Median participation in imperial service. The Greco-Persian Wars provided the most significant test of Median loyalty to Persian imperial authority, as former enemies of Persian expansion were called upon to participate in campaigns against Greek opponents who represented similar cultural and political traditions. Median military units participated in all major Persian expeditions against Greece, including the campaigns led by Darius and Xerxes that brought Persian forces into direct confrontation with Greek military innovations and tactical doctrines. Archaeological evidence from Greek battlefields includes examples of Median weapons and equipment that confirm their active participation in these crucial imperial campaigns. The Battle of Marathon in 490 BC involved substantial Median cavalry forces that operated alongside Persian infantry and other imperial units in the unsuccessful attempt to establish Persian control over Attica. Median horsemen employed traditional tactics that had proven effective in previous campaigns, but the unique tactical challenges presented by Greek hoplite formations required adaptations that proved difficult to implement during the heat of battle. The archaeological record from the Marathon battlefield includes Median arrowheads and horse equipment that demonstrates their active engagement in the fighting, while the tactical lessons learned from this defeat influenced subsequent Persian military planning. The massive Persian expedition led by Xerxes in 479 BC included even larger numbers of Median military units that participated in both the naval and land components of the campaign. Median forces were present at the Battle of Thermopylae, where their mountain warfare expertise proved valuable in the flanking maneuver that ultimately overcame Spartan resistance. Archaeological investigations in the Thermopylae region have uncovered Median weapons and equipment that confirm their participation in this famous engagement. While ancient sources describe the effectiveness of Median archery in the preliminary phases of the battle, the naval operations during Xerxes' campaign involved Median participation in the logistical support systems that maintained Persian fleet operations throughout the extended campaign. While Medes were not traditionally a maritime people, their administrative expertise proved crucial for coordinating the complex supply operations necessary to support the largest military expedition in ancient history. Median administrators managed supply depots, coordinated transportation systems, and maintained communication networks that enabled Persian forces to operate effectively across vast distances while maintaining logistical support for both naval and land operations. The Battle of Plataea in 479 BC marked the final major engagement of the Greco-Persian Wars and involved substantial Median military participation in the Persian attempt to maintain control over central Greece. Median cavalry units operated alongside Persian and other imperial forces in complex tactical maneuvers that reflected the sophisticated military coordination achieved by Persian commanders. The archaeological evidence from Plataea includes numerous examples of Median military equipment scattered across the battlefield, indicating their active participation in the intense fighting that ultimately resulted in Persian defeat and withdrawal from Greek territories. The aftermath of Persian defeats in Greece created the first significant challenges to Median loyalty within the imperial system, as the failure of major military campaigns raised questions about Persian military competence and imperial prospects. However, rather than leading to widespread Median rebellion, these defeats appear to have strengthened Median integration into Persian administrative systems, as imperial authorities recognized the need for experienced administrators to manage the complex challenges of governing a vast empire while dealing with external military pressures. The reign of Artaxerxes I witnessed the first serious Median revolt against Persian authority since the initial conquest, though the circumstances and extent of this rebellion remain partially unclear from available sources. Archaeological evidence suggests that the revolt was centered in the traditional Median heartland around Ecbatana, and involved attempts to restore independent Median rule under leaders who claimed legitimacy through descent from pre-conquest Median royal families. The rebellion appears to have been motivated by a combination of economic grievances, cultural tensions, and political ambitions that had accumulated during decades of Persian rule. The economic factors contributing to Median unrest included increased tribute obligations imposed to fund Persian military campaigns and administrative expansion, combined with reduced access to the profitable trade routes that had previously provided substantial revenues for Median communities. Archaeological evidence from some Median territories during this period shows signs of economic stress, including reduced construction activity, simplified material culture, and evidence of population movement that suggests deteriorating economic conditions. The Persian response to these economic challenges involved both military suppression and administrative reforms designed to address legitimate grievances while maintaining imperial authority. The cultural dimensions of Median resistance to Persian rule involved assertions of distinctive Median identity and traditions that had been gradually suppressed or modified under imperial administration. Median religious practices, while sharing common Iranian roots with Persian traditions, had developed unique characteristics that emphasized different aspects of traditional beliefs and ceremonial requirements. The preservation and promotion of these distinctive cultural elements became symbols of Median resistance to imperial homogenization and provided rallying points for opposition to Persian authority. The military suppression of Median revolts required substantial Persian military resources and demonstrated the continued importance of maintaining adequate garrison forces throughout the empire to deal with internal security challenges. Persian commanders employed combined military and diplomatic strategies that isolated rebel leaders while offering amnesty to their followers, creating divisions within Median resistance movements that facilitated their ultimate suppression. Archaeological evidence from sites associated with these conflicts reveals the intensity of fighting and the sophisticated military techniques employed by both sides during the suppression campaigns. The administrative reforms implemented following the suppression of Median revolts involved modifications to the satrap system that provided greater autonomy for local administration while maintaining effective imperial supervision. Persian authorities recognized that excessive centralization had contributed to Median unrest and implemented policies that preserved local customs and administrative practices while ensuring continued loyalty to imperial authority. These reforms created more flexible governmental systems that could accommodate regional variations, while maintaining the essential unity necessary for effective imperial administration. The later Persian period witnessed several additional episodes of Median unrest, though none achieved the scale or intensity of the major revolt during Artaxerxes' reign. These smaller rebellions typically involved local grievances related to specific administrative policies or economic conditions, rather than systematic attempts to restore Median independence. The Persian response to these incidents involved rapid military intervention combined with administrative adjustments designed to address underlying causes of discontent while deterring future resistance. The reign of Darius III coincided with the Macedonian invasion led by Alexander the Great that would ultimately destroy Persian imperial authority and create new opportunities for Median political assertion. The initial Median response to Alexander's invasion was complicated by their integration into Persian imperial systems and their obligations to support Persian resistance to foreign conquest. However, as Persian military defeats accumulated and imperial authority collapsed, Median communities began considering their options for the post-imperial period. The Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC represented the final major engagement between Persian imperial forces and Alexander's Macedonian army, with substantial Median military participation in the desperate Persian attempt to halt Macedonian expansion. Median cavalry units operated alongside Persian forces in complex tactical formations that reflected decades of military cooperation and shared strategic planning. Archaeological evidence from the battlefield includes numerous examples of Median military equipment that demonstrates their continued integration into Persian military organization even during the final phases of imperial collapse. The collapse of Persian resistance following Gaugamela created immediate challenges for Median communities regarding their relationship with the victorious Macedonian forces and their plans for post-imperial political organization. Alexander's conquest of the Persian Empire in 331 BC marked the end of nearly 2 centuries of Median integration into imperial systems, Yet the cultural and administrative foundations established during the Median period would prove remarkably durable, influencing subsequent Iranian dynasties and preserving essential elements of Iranian identity throughout periods of foreign domination and political fragmentation. The administrative innovations developed during the Median period provided crucial foundations for Persian imperial governance that would be adopted and adapted by subsequent rulers throughout Iranian history. The satrap system, which evolved from Median provincial administration, demonstrated the effectiveness of decentralized governance combined with centralized oversight for managing diverse populations across vast territories. Archaeological evidence from administrative centers throughout the former Persian Empire reveals the persistence of record-keeping practices, taxation procedures, and judicial systems that originated during the Median period and continued to influence governmental operations long after the collapse of Achaemenid authority. The Median contribution to Persian military organization extended far beyond the simple integration of Median cavalry units into imperial armies. The combined arms tactics developed by Cyaxares during his military reforms became standard practice throughout Persian military organization, with coordinated operations involving infantry, cavalry, and archer units forming the tactical foundation for Persian imperial expansion. The siege warfare techniques perfected during Median campaigns against Assyrian fortifications provided Persian commanders with the capabilities necessary for conquering fortified cities throughout their territorial expansion, while Median expertise in mountain warfare proved invaluable for operations in the diverse terrain conditions encountered across the Persian Empire. The standardization of weapons production and military equipment that began during the Median unification period established manufacturing standards and quality control procedures that influenced military technology throughout the ancient Iranian world. Archaeological investigations at weapons production sites reveal the persistence of metallurgical techniques and design specifications that originated during Median military development and continue to influence Iranian arms manufacturing for centuries after the fall of the Achaemenid Empire. The superior quality of Iranian metalwork, particularly in the production of swords, spear points, and archery equipment, became renowned throughout the ancient world and reflected the technical innovations achieved during the Median period. The diplomatic protocols and ceremonial practices developed at the Median court in Ecbatana provided models for Persian imperial court culture that emphasized the elevated status of royal authority while maintaining accessibility for subject populations and foreign delegations. The architectural innovations implemented during Median palace construction, including the use of columned halls, elevated platforms, and elaborate decorative schemes, became characteristic features of Persian imperial architecture that influenced building practices throughout the empire and beyond. Archaeological evidence from Persian royal centers reveals the direct adoption of Median architectural elements combined with Persian innovations to create distinctive imperial architectural styles that symbolized Persian power while acknowledging their Median heritage. The religious synthesis achieved during the Median period, which combined traditional Iranian fire worship with administrative and legal principles derived from Mesopotamian sources, provided the foundation for the development of Zoroastrianism as the dominant religious system of the Persian Empire. The emphasis on truth-telling, moral behavior, and the fundamental opposition between good and evil that characterized Median religious teachings became central elements of Zoroastrian theology that influenced Persian imperial ideology and legal systems. Archaeological evidence from fire temples throughout the former Persian Empire shows the persistence of architectural designs and ritual practices that originated during the Median period and continued to influence Iranian religious architecture throughout subsequent historical periods. The integration of diverse cultural traditions that characterized Median society created precedents for the cosmopolitan character of Persian imperial culture that would become one of the distinguishing features of Achaemenid civilization. The Median court's attraction of scholars, artists, and craftsmen from throughout the ancient world established patterns of cultural exchange that the Persian Empire would expand and systematize on an unprecedented scale. The artistic traditions that developed during the Median period, combining Iranian motifs with influences from Mesopotamian, Anatolian, and other cultural sources, provided the foundation for the distinctive Persian imperial art style that would influence artistic development throughout the ancient world. Archaeological discoveries from the 20th and 21st centuries have significantly enhanced our understanding of Median civilization and its contributions to ancient Iranian culture. Excavations at Tepe-Nusheijyan have revealed the sophisticated architectural and religious practices of Median communities, including fire temples with advanced ventilation systems and ceremonial installations that demonstrate the complexity of Median religious architecture. The site's stratified deposits provide crucial evidence for the development of Median material culture from the early settlement period through the Persian conquest, revealing the gradual evolution of pottery styles, metalworking techniques, and architectural innovations that characterized Median cultural development. The ongoing excavations at Hamadan, the site of ancient Ecbatana, continue to provide new insights into Median urban planning and administrative organization. Recent discoveries include substantial stone foundations that confirm the existence of major fortification systems described in ancient sources, though the specific architectural details mentioned by Herodotus remain archaeologically unverified. The urban layout revealed through systematic survey demonstrates the sophisticated planning that created functional administrative, residential, and commercial districts while maintaining defensive capabilities. Water management systems, including channels, reservoirs, and distribution networks, reveal the engineering expertise that enabled large urban populations to thrive in the semi-arid environment of the Hamadan Plain. Archaeological investigations at Godin Tepe have provided crucial evidence for the early phases of Iranian settlement in the Zagros Mountains and the gradual development of the cultural traditions that would characterize Median civilization. The site's long sequence of occupation levels documents the transition from nomadic to sedentary lifestyles, the development of specialized craft production, and the emergence of social stratification that preceded the formation of Median political confederations. The material assemblages from different periods reveal the persistence of certain cultural traditions combined with gradual innovations that reflect both internal development and external cultural influences. Recent excavations at sites throughout Median territory have revealed the extent of Median settlement patterns and the sophistication of their agricultural and pastoral systems. Irrigation works, terraced fields, and seasonal campsites demonstrate the integrated land use strategies that maximize productivity while maintaining environmental sustainability. The discovery of numerous small fortified sites indicates the defensive preparations undertaken by Median communities during periods of external threat, while the standardization of architectural features across these sites reveals the political integration achieved under centralized Median authority. The application of modern analytical techniques to Median archaeological materials has provided new insights into ancient Iranian technological capabilities and cultural practices. Metallurgical analysis of Median weapons and tools reveals sophisticated alloying techniques and heat treatment processes that produce superior quality implements. Ceramic analysis demonstrates the development of specialized pottery production centers and the standardization of vessel forms that facilitated trade and administrative activities. Paleobotanical and zooarchaeological studies have revealed the agricultural and pastoral practices that supported Median communities and the environmental adaptations that enabled successful settlement in challenging mountain environments. The preservation of Iranian cultural identity through subsequent periods of foreign domination owed much to the institutional and cultural foundations established during the Median period. The administrative systems, religious practices, and cultural traditions developed under Median rule provided frameworks for maintaining Iranian identity while adapting to changing political circumstances. The emphasis on truth-telling, justice, and moral behavior that characterized Median legal and religious systems became enduring elements of Iranian culture that persisted through periods of Greek, Parthian, and Sasanian rule. The influence of Median governmental innovations extended beyond the Iranian plateau to affect administrative practices throughout the ancient Near East and Mediterranean world. The satrap system developed from Median provincial administration became a model for decentralized imperial governance that was adopted by Alexander's successors and influenced Roman provincial administration. The integration of diverse populations under unified political authority while preserving local customs and administrative practices demonstrated the practical advantages of flexible governmental systems that subsequent empires would attempt to replicate. The military innovations pioneered during the Median period continued to influence warfare throughout the ancient world long after the fall of the Achaemenid Empire. The combined arms tactics that integrated cavalry, infantry, and archer units became standard practice among Hellenistic armies and influenced Roman military organization. The siege warfare techniques developed during Median campaigns provided models for subsequent military engineers, while the emphasis on mobility and tactical flexibility remained characteristic features of Iranian military doctrine throughout later historical periods. The historiographical challenges involved in reconstructing Median history from limited primary sources continue to complicate scholarly understanding of this crucial period in ancient Iranian development. The reliance on later Greek and Persian sources, particularly Herodotus's account of Median origins and political development, creates difficulties in distinguishing historical facts from literary constructions and cultural interpretations. The archaeological record, while providing valuable material evidence for Median civilization, often lacks the chronological precision necessary for correlating material remains with specific historical events described in literary sources. The problem of source reliability is particularly acute regarding the early phases of Median development, where archaeological evidence provides the primary basis for historical reconstruction. The gradual nature of cultural and political development revealed through archaeological investigation contrasts sharply with the dramatic narratives of sudden political transformation presented in later literary sources. Modern scholars must carefully balance the insights provided by material evidence with the information preserved in ancient texts, while acknowledging the limitations and potential biases inherent in both types of sources. The integration of archaeological and textual evidence requires sophisticated methodological approaches that can account for the different types of information provided by material remains and literary sources. Archaeological evidence excels at revealing long-term cultural processes, technological development, and environmental adaptations, while textual sources provide information about specific political events, individual personalities, and ideological frameworks. The combination of these different types of evidence creates more comprehensive understanding of Median civilization, while highlighting areas where current knowledge remains incomplete or uncertain. Recent advances in archaeological methodology, including improved dating techniques, environmental analysis, and comparative studies with other ancient Iranian cultures, continue to refine our understanding of Median civilization and its historical significance. Radiocarbon dating and other scientific techniques provide more precise chronological frameworks for correlating archaeological deposits with historical events, while paleo-environmental studies reveal the climatic and ecological conditions that influenced Median settlement patterns and economic activities. Comparative analysis with contemporary cultures throughout the Iranian plateau and adjacent regions helps place Median development within broader patterns of ancient Near Eastern cultural evolution. The continuing discovery of new archaeological sites and the re-examination of previously excavated materials using modern analytical techniques promise to further enhance our understanding of Median civilization in the coming decades. Systematic survey projects throughout the Zagros Mountains continue to identify new sites that provide additional evidence for Median settlement patterns and cultural practices. The application of the remote sensing technologies and geographic information systems enables more comprehensive analysis of site distributions and landscape use patterns that reveal the environmental and strategic factors that influenced Median political and economic development. The legacy of Median civilization extends far beyond its direct contributions to Persian imperial development to encompass its role in preserving and transmitting essential elements of Iranian cultural identity that would influence subsequent historical periods. The synthesis of nomadic and sedentary traditions achieved during the Median period created cultural frameworks that enabled Iranian populations to maintain their distinctive identity while adapting to changing political and economic circumstances. The emphasis on justice, truth, and moral behaviour that characterised Median legal and religious systems became enduring features of Iranian culture that influenced political ideologies and social values throughout later Iranian history. The Median Empire's transformation from a collection of mountain tribes into a sophisticated imperial power that could challenge Assyrian dominance and ultimately contribute to the creation of the largest empire in ancient history represents one of the most remarkable political developments in the ancient world. The administrative innovations, military reforms, and cultural synthesis achieved during this relatively brief period established foundations that would influence the development of Iranian civilization for centuries to come. The Median legacy reminds us that the rise and fall of ancient empires involved complex processes of cultural adaptation, technological innovation, and political creativity that continue to provide valuable insights into the dynamics of historical change and the enduring influence of foundational civilizations on subsequent cultural development.